I'm going to have to start diving into my settings soon and actually learning how to do this on mine. Look at you go.
I learnt stuff. How fancy.
That is amazing.
I know things about things.
And you know things about things that I don't know, about techie things that are video related. That's how fast you're learning. You've now surpassed me.
Every week I set I love the inception though. It's like every week I set myself a task of learning one new thing, and it has been exponential. I'm not even talking to a microphone.
No, but can I just say that anyone that's listening to this on a podcast platform, you need to go to YouTube. And number one, you need to subscribe to the Oddcast HQ because we want to pump those numbers up. But also, you're missing out because what Carl's has done here is basically a work of art in visual form. It's a piece of visual art. And if you're only listening, you are missing out right now.
Well, what I need to do is, if I do that, now you can see the show notes. You can see how prepared I am.
Don't show them what we're going to talk about. They'll realise that we just copied and pasted from Waleed Ali's notes for the project.
Now we need to go here, and you need to press auto.
Oh, yes, okay.
No, you got it. There we go. We're on.
Okay.
Hello?
Well, except that you made it black. There we go.
No.
All right. Excellent.
Ha.
All right. Do we know what we're doing? So, no, because camera one...
Which is the wide shot. Did I turn it off?
Well, I think the camera's off. It's blick.
Oh, Lord. I just plugged myself. Hang on. No, I can do this. Wait.
Okay, so now if you're watching the video, you're looking at a black screen, and those of you listening to the podcast, now you're the ones who are winning. So, yes, look, Carly has achieved some remarkable things this week and has also broken some things that were previously working.
Nothing. It's literally not working. All right.
It is literally not working. That's why I said that's not working.
Has it been unplugged from its power source?
Okay, I'm going to move away from my microphone as well. This is going to be riveting, everybody. Just riveting. Listen to us troubleshoot a camera.
I believe maybe its power source has come unplugged.
Okay, so that could be up here because they are very finicky.
Here. It's this. Hello.
Okay. Apparently it helps when power is plugged in.
Aha!
So today it will be in a minute. There we go. It's on.
Hey!
All right. So today's lesson for all the
You
kids.
were bragging about my good stuff. And
for all the boys and girls out there is don't brag about how great Carly was.
Why is there a banana on the table?
Well, so they say that it takes a very confident man to eat a banana in public.
I would love to watch this.
I'm just thinking, if I eat a banana in public, will people? Can I fake being confident? You know that old saying, if you learn how to fake sincerity, you've got it made.
Well, we might develop an OnlyFans audience, and that's how we can make our real cash.
Hey, look, see what it actually is I'm thinking ahead because this is going to be a marathon episode.
He's actually eating it on the podcast.
We have so much to talk about.
If you saw my show notes, yes.
That I'm going to be still in this chair in 5 hours' time. I need some energy. I need some potassium. I need to be able to focus, just to be able to keep nodding and smiling while you rant at me. So I'm going to eat a banana in public.
Oh, I need to correct something that really bothered someone last week. So just 1 minute. No. I need to do this. And then I need to do this. There we go.
Okay, so I'm 100% with that person. That's been bothering me the whole time.
Then why don't you fix it?
Well, because it then also causes it to go on the wrong side of the bar for the tail of the microphone, and that also annoys me. So I get annoyed one way or I get annoyed the other way because now we've added more angle on this bend than what there needed to be. And so no matter which way I go, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
So what would you do instead?
I would just choose to run it the other way and be done with it. But if people are complaining, if we've got that
It's because we were mismatched. People like symmetry.
So if our one viewer was complaining and objecting, then we really should listen to our one viewer and give them what they want.
Don't say I don't listen to you guys. I do care.
There you go. Hang on. Caring is a very different thing to listening. Let's not go overboard.
Are we keeping that banana peel on the table?
Oh, fine. Goodness me.
Did you actually eat it? I didn't even watch.
Wow. Do you want me to do it again, but slower this time?
Do it. Hey, wait. Hey, yeah. Someone clip this, turn it into a meme, let it go viral.
I'm going to enjoy that progressively as the show goes on because I've got to keep my energy up. I just know if we combine all of your rants for this episode into one, that by itself will be a 2.5 hour episode.
Yeah, look, I have to resist. Actually, no, I tell you what I'd have done.
Don't resist. It's more fun when...
You might notice there's no water because...
Oh my goodness.
I think we need
Okay. I have a lot of questions.
We're just going to start drinking on this podcast.
I have a lot of, because you don't drink.
No, I don't.
If you start sipping whiskey, this podcast is going to go a long way off the rails.
I don't even think I could stomach this, even
Yeah.
if you put a gun to my head.
Look, it's not bad stuff. The Chivas Regal 18 is not bad. I'm not going to have any, thank you.
I wasn't actually.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, thought you're going to take a swig. No, I drink whiskey neat. I could drink that neat. That'd be no problem.
It smells yuck.
Give me a whiff.
It smells like, I know alcohol is fermentation, but it smells like off fruits and veg to me.
Okay, so that's got a very, very strong vanilla oak sort of note to it.
Oh, listen to him. Sommelier over here. Oh, fuck, he's swirling it. It's not wine.
Just to get it to mix with the air a little bit. Give me a bit more to sniff.
I just snorted.
Little Miss Piggy over here. Yeah, look, that would be a very, very smooth, easy to drink.
Oh, God.
Whiskey.
No, absolutely. You couldn't put a gun to my head and make me drink alcohol.
I'm pretty sure you could.
It just tastes
I'm pretty
yuck.
sure if you're a Greta Thunberg and you made it all the way into the Gaza Strip and they put a gun to your head and said, drink some alcohol, you'd be able to do it.
I reckon I'd.
All right. We're getting our water back. Don't drop it on the laptop.
Oh, imagine. I've done that before. That's not going to happen again.
Can I-
$1,500.
If I bump the table at the strategic moment.
So on the table thing, we went table shopping on the weekend, and guys, it's not as easy as you think. I literally went to, what's it called? The Homemaker Centre out near IKEA. I went into every single furniture place.
Because you haven't heard of the internet.
I did that too. No, I like to see things.
Yeah.
I'm tactile.
Okay.
I just get annoyed. So I went in there, and I also just like to get my steps up. So this, just so you guys
That's
know,
hard to do on the internet. You're right.
this tabletop is not actually attached to the trestles it's on.
It is levitating.
It is levitating, which is why it's like... It's also hollow. It's one of those IKEA desks.
Which is why it does that weird
Yeah, it's really annoying.
dong
Sorry, guys.
kind of thing. Yeah.
So I went to source some things, and I have this amazing talent. I could be in a shop full of 10,000 different products, and without fail, I can pick out the most expensive item every time.
I'm sure G really appreciates that skill.
It is a superpower of mine, because I'll be like, oh, that white table there is beautiful. Let's get that one. And it's like $6,000 because it's
like
made from Italian marble.
Sell your soul to the devil. Yeah.
Every time I was like, oh, this nice oak table was lovely. $4,000. Because what we need to do, guys, is we actually need to drill a hole in the table. So whatever table we buy, we're going to destroy.
Yeah, we are destroying.
Because where the switchboard is now, you guys can't see it off camera. We need it in front of us, which is why we keep leaning.
It's too far.
So you guys are watching us actually problem solve as we go each week.
But also...
You can't say this isn't entertaining.
The truth is that Carly wants the control desk to be closer because she loves being in control, but she also wants the table to be wider so that I'm further away. So there's a couple of objectives that this table needs to meet all in one.
No, so what we need is a round table that's about...
How very egalitarian of you.
I know, right? Like I was thinking like Knights at the Round Table kind of deal. But it needs to be a specific dimension of at least 120 centimeters diameter.
I see.
So this is very specific.
Right. I mean, that's a 1.2 meter diameter table. That's not terribly large. I, in fact, have a marble one at home, but we are using it. It's our little sort of kitchen, dining room, live area table.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did see one I quite liked at IKEA, but this is my predicament. So we can't have a table that has 4 legs if it's round because you'll smack the legs. So we want a table that has a center mount.
Right.
But we need to be able to drill through it. So that thing needs to be hollow or able to...
Well, hang on. When you drill through, does the hole have to be in the center?
It doesn't have to be in the
But
center,
it's going
but
to really
center-ish.
bother you if it isn't.
It will drive me crazy. Center-ish so that we can at least put the cables through. And like if we can drill through that bit and then pop it out the side, I don't mind.
Look, that would be ideal, but I'm just thinking if we kind of drilled it just off closer to the wall or something, you know, closer to where the guests are going to sit. Because ultimately there will be guests sitting in the middle if you look at the wide shot, which we can't quite get because it won't go to the wide shot for us. There's going to be, if we have a third person, it's going to be sitting in between Carly and me. There, over here where my hand is. There we go. And sitting in there, and that's where they're going to be with all kind of the microphone booms stuck in their face so that we can't actually see
and then I've got to buy a bloody third microphone. And how
Yeah.
do you configure a third one to this?
I know, because all of a sudden we need our microphones coming from here, but then they're going to be in our single shots. I mean, it's just a nightmare, really, Carly.
The whole thing is actually a lot more complicated than you guys think. So I just want you to appreciate this. And if you're not subscribed, you should be, because this is how we start every podcast.
That's right.
An absolute schmozzle.
Well, normally we're actually arguing more than we have this episode. We've actually
It's
got
because we did that before I
That's
pressed
right.
record.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We cut it
What
out.
were we talking about? We're like, we should talk about this on the podcast.
I don't remember.
Or bringing back vocabulary that seems to be forgotten.
Well, there's that, yes. But I think actually I was just admiring your handiwork and the fact that you've done so well learning all the scenes and stuff.
I have.
No, but that has to be switched manually. So you're going to have to
Well, that's why we need to have a bigger table that I can drill a hole. That's why we got onto that conversation.
Yeah.
Our tangents always serve a purpose.
They do. There is a reason.
Actually, can you just quickly, for everyone, and I'll clip this later, can you just sing Tangent Time for me?
Tangent time.
No,
tangent
stop.
time.
You got to dance.
I'm sorry.
3,
Sorry.
2. Hang on. It needs to be on here too.
Am I
And do it.
Am I getting a solo? Is
Yeah,
this my
this
solo?
is it. This is your solo.
Tangent time, tangent time, tangent time, tangent time.
Is there more to it?
No, that's it.
Oh.
That's yeah.
Oh, that was so underwhelming.
Yeah, that is my contribution to the magnum opus of the world.
Thank you. I will clip that for later, and you'll see why. But so good news.
Oh goodness, you are going to make me do that first, aren't you? Because you don't know what yours is either.
I do have some good news. It's funny. So you first.
Well, okay, but I haven't really stopped to actually think about mine yet.
Oh, okay. Do you want to start with mine?
Yeah, let's start
All
with
right.
yours.
So I need to go to our shot here, and I'm going to do this.
Ooh, oh,
Guys, meet Spicy Carls.
oh, that's hilarious.
This is my alter ego.
That actually looks like the eyes. The eyes actually work.
So this is a result of me learning AI through my master's project.
Okay.
I spent more time on this than you want to know.
Again, if you listen to the podcast, you're missing out. This is a jalapeno spicy
It's a Carolina Reaper.
Carolina Reaper with a stalk whipped up in a quiff like its hair with smoke
It's
coming
a
off it.
ponytail.
Hands on its hips, angry eyes, and a very much upside down smile. This is an angry California Reaper, and it is Spicy Carls. That is Spicy Carls embodied. That is amazing.
I just love the hands on the hips. Right. It's so funny because I've been learning all about different ways to prompt the different versions of AI. So this
Sure.
was done in a program called Flux.
Okay.
And yeah, just I won't bore you guys with it, but yeah, it took a while to actually get it to what I want to do. Like AI, if you just are okay with a really mediocre result, will give you something
really
mediocre.
generic. Yeah.
But to get what you want, it's a process. But this, can you imagine this as a plushie?
Oh, yeah. Are we already working on our merch line? We're like George Lucas, you can have the rights to the movie, but I want the rights to the merchandise.
I just want a plushie today. It's Spicy
Oh,
Carls.
look, send that over to China and they'll be able to whip you up a plushie in no time.
All right. So, and also on the merch, guys, we will be reviewing T-shirt designs later this week.
Ooh.
We have 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
3
so
to choose from, or 3 that you're thinking maybe we do all 3?
I would think we would do all 3.
Ooh.
We have a Tangent Time T-shirt. I'll give you guys a preview. This is exclusive.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
It is done in the style of retro 80s graphics
Okay.
to celebrate your old age.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so think Miami Vice, 80s.
I was like, that's that California sunset with the lines.
Yeah.
I'm thinking California games
That's
with the
it.
music. And
Yeah.
okay. All right.
That was inspired by G's nostalgia phase that he's going through.
Okay.
And then we have the Oddcast, just like the branding.
Oh, don't say it just the generic,
some
just
people-
the one, the us one, yeah.
Some people are minimalist and they just like to represent.
But sell it to me.
Okay,
Convince
so it's
me.
just cool. It's our podcast.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's us. It's the most awesome podcast on the planet, and you can have the very first edition T-shirt.
And they'll wear it around and go, I was OG. I got the first.
Yeah, got the first one.
I got the first.
Yeah.
And
And we
then-
will have to discontinue that within sort of a year
100%.
or so, and then it's just never to be repeated. If you didn't get it in the first year, you can't get it.
100%. And the branding will change. I'm too.
You can't help yourself.
Correct.
You tinker. You tinker all the time.
I must tinker.
Yeah.
And then the third one could either be I'm a rant. I'm going to need a rant here or something like that. Or just, I don't know. We're working on that one.
I still think there's got to be a Spicy Carl's one.
I really want to do like
There's
a
got
Hulk.
to be a Spicy
Like,
Carl's, yeah.
ripping-
Like that California Reaper ripping its way through the shirt.
Maybe we'll
Right?
put that on the t-shirt.
Honestly, that would sell.
Would you guys wear it? Let me know.
That would sell. I
think
don't
it's
know
funny.
what
Maybe
words would
like
go with it, but
less 3D, like make it a bit more 2D
yeah,
animation.
a little bit more, yeah.
Bit more
But
cute.
I think something on that line. We've got to figure out what's my equivalent of that, because that's awesome, but we need that. We need you and me.
Yeah.
What's me?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Guys, help us out.
Help us out here, guys.
Yeah.
We've drawn a dead end. We're halfway there. That's awesome. What do we need for me?
All right. So now if you press auto.
Oh, yeah, I've got to hold down the auto.
Yeah. We are learning. Go
All right.
us.
All right. So I've thought of my good news.
Okay.
So
Why is it on me?
because we're trying to get people to keep watching. So there's a thing that people complain about called weaponized incompetence, where you're deliberately incompetent, you make other people step in to do your job for you. But
You have a term for absolutely everything.
there is also what I like to call strategic incompetence, which is where you choose to become incompetent in the areas that are actually someone else's responsibility, so that they have to then step in and actually, do the thing. So I used to manage there was a mate of mine owned a video production company, and there was a team there, and the roles and the delineation between the roles weren't as good as what they ought to have been, and that was causing terrible inefficiencies, very bad handovers between departments, and projects were stalling and getting stuck. And the problem was that Ben, the owner of the business, would keep on jumping in and saving everyone's hide. And so I sent him on a 3-month holiday, and I said, you're going to hand your business over to me. When you come back, it may or may not look like what it does right now, but I promise you whatever is there will run a lot better. And so he didn't take a 3-month holiday, but he did step away for a little while and let me run the business. And what I was able to do was to create really good delineation between departments, really clean handovers, and we dramatically improved our efficiency. Because the problem arose actually because I came in a sales role and I was selling so much business for them that they didn't have the capacity to produce it. But when my friend sat down and ran the numbers, he realized he was still going to be losing money.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, we're as busy as we can possibly be. We don't have capacity for more work, but we're still losing money. Either our price point is wrong, which it wasn't, or we are really inefficient, which is what the problem was.
Yes.
And so what I did was I sat in my office and I became strategically incompetent. Sorry, I can't solve that problem for you. That's your department. You come back to me when you figured out how to make that work. And it doesn't make you a lot of friends in the short term.
No.
But it does actually lead to a really, really wonderful, wonderful outcome. And, well, confession time. I might have used a bit of strategic incompetence on you.
So that I would figure out how to work this podcast.
And you have not only done it, you have now exceeded my skill set in this equipment. And
Do you know what
like my little heart actually sings. I'm looking at it going, ooh, we are going to go places. Like this is going to be amazing.
Leave me alone. Well, it's actually me and G, to be fair.
Sure,
I get wildly impatient. But that's all, like my impatience is also weirdly my superpower.
Yeah.
Because
it compels you.
Yeah, I solve things out of sheer frustration.
Yeah.
And like I think this is why Spicy Culls is such a part of my personality. I see flashes of red. I just get so enraged that I have to immediately solve that problem. And that's why I'm a good problem solver.
Which is also why you should never be a political commentator, because pretty much none of the problems I talk about can actually be solved quickly.
No, I have noticed this. Actually, do you know what I said to G was it last night or the night before? I was like, I need to log off X for a bit because I'm getting too angry because I know exactly how to solve it, but no one wants to listen to it. No, because actually it dawned on me, and you're probably like, Carly, where have you been? People don't want to solve these problems.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
That's
Okay. Can we share with our audience something that is absolutely true, that is kind of a behind the curtains thing that most people in our position would never admit? When Albo got elected, you and I looked at each other and went, well, we're not going to run out of content anytime soon, are we?
No, we did say that.
From a strict sort of mercenary, we run a podcast and we need things to talk about point of view, the world getting worse benefits us. Now, that's us at this level. Imagine how it is for things like, well, I was about to start naming organizations. I won't. but big dollar charities and government-aligned non-government organizations, these ones that might be focused on particular diseases or categories of disease, or focused on welfare or poverty or particular racial groups, etc., the worst thing that can happen to them is that they actually successfully solve the problem that they say they're trying to solve. Their reason for being ceases to exist. Their reason for getting funded ceases to exist. All the cushy salaries and the travel and everything else that the executive get cease to exist. The worst possible thing would be for their problems to actually be solved. Now, stop and take that one step further and think about what would be the worst thing that could possibly happen to a politician.
They become redundant because they no longer need to be.
If there are no problems, they can't make promises. Empty promises, of course.
It's hard to get elected if you can't promise something.
You can't keep making promises.
Oh, this is depressing. Can we start the podcast with a little bit more joy and enthusiasm?
My good news was that I managed to take advantage of you with strategic incompetence. So I guess it's probably my fault that we're off to a bit of a shaky start.
That was your good news.
No, it actually makes my heart sing. I'm looking at it going, this is because we've talked before about the fact that I'm trying to go places. I'm trying to actually have an impact on the world, leave a mark. And I've kind of worked alongside other people and for various reasons, often for their, because they don't actually want to, and that's completely legitimate on their part. Other people have I've worked alongside them for a little while, and then they've kind of gone, this isn't really for me, because it's a lot, as you know, right? It's a lot. And I'm sitting here going, I think you're the person that we can actually go places together. And I think, and so
it's gonna be a compliment, guys.
Well, when I watched all of that sort of happen, I walk in now, I had no idea. You just sent me a text message saying, I've been playing with the scenes function. And I sit down and you've done that. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're going places.
Yeah.
We're going places.
I said to G, okay, so this is just to give you guys, just quickly, I was being a smart ass because I was controlling this from the panel here.
Right.
But I actually can't flick it back onto auto for some reason. It's the only thing I can't do. I was like, I can be smart and
oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah. There will be a way to do it.
There'd have to be. I was just double clicking it. I was like, why would you go back on? I've got the control panel also on my laptop in case you're wondering. Anyway, I don't want to keep looking at myself. That's weird. So I have had some thinkings. I've had to be really honest with myself about what I'm doing because given the tumultuous world that we currently live in, I've been reassessing things and I have been in somewhat, I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis. It's not that. It's just more so I have to be really honest with myself. What do you want?
Yeah.
Where are you going? What are we achieving here? And I think the reason things haven't necessarily clicked and thrived for me is because there's things clashing.
Yeah.
So for example, right, and I'm sure you guys can relate and let me know in the comments below because this is kind of where I'm at. I'm turning 40 next year. I don't care that I'm 40. I'm happy to be 40.
Sure.
But what I'm looking at is okay, well, you've finished this first chapter of your life. That's a lot of thinking and traveling and experimenting. Now it's time to buckle down. What did you like? Let's lean into it.
At 40.
And I'm excited for that. And I was like, okay, so there's lots of conflicting things here. I've said goodbye to my old business. I've said goodbye to my old life. And I was sitting here going, okay, well, I love photography. I love what I do. Yeah. But unfortunately, there is a part of having a business where you have to take on clients who aren't necessarily aligned with you. I don't mean politically. I just mean they have different ways of doing things. They might be difficult to please. They might be late payers. All those typical
They've got their own
things.
lives, their own issues, all that. Yep.
And unfortunately, in the recent year, I've had a lot of clients who they're good people, but for reasons known to them, they've been late in paying me. They've been incredibly difficult. They ghost you and then they come back and their expectations are high. Normal business stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not enjoying it. And I found that has really sucked the life out of my business. And for those who know, I used to have a product-based business. And that had so many problems.
Yep.
And I thought, service business is a little bit simpler. Nope.
No.
You idiot.
All businesses have
All
problems.
businesses.
Yeah.
And I talk to business owners all day, every day. That's who my clients are. So I know this is just a normal thing. I used to take it really personally.
Yeah.
I used to think, it's my
hard
fault.
not to. Because your business is your baby.
Yeah.
When someone has a problem with your baby.
Yeah.
And,
as also the thing I do is very subjective. Is it a good photo? Well, it's up to you. Subjectively it could be, but whatever.
Yeah, do you like it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or objectively, I should say, sorry. But anyway, so I was thinking about this and I said to G, I'm like, I love all these skills that I have, but I don't feel like I'm using them in a way that's beneficial to me long term.
Right.
And then ever since you and I had that conversation, when did we have that? At the end of last year.
I don't
It's
know.
around
We
Christmas
have a
time.
lot of conversations. I don't know which one you're talking about. Yet.
About starting this podcast.
Okay, right, yes.
I think it was,
it was late last
Christmas.
year.
Yeah, it was Christmas time. And I was like, I want to give YouTube a shot. I hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
I'd been making content on Instagram, doing all that sort of stuff. And to, average results.
Yep.
To go viral is not really the game. I can go viral if I want to.
It's to grow.
It's to grow.
Yeah.
And have an audience that is aligned with you and wants to be there.
And to build a community that you're going to enjoy the journey with.
Yeah.
That's actually way more important.
Correct. And I struggle because there's spicy Carls, political Carls, who I never ever expected to be that came out of COVID.
Yeah.
And then there's Carls who loves photography, art and education. And
Artsy Carls.
Artsy Carls.
We need like a half-half, like a Joker style, spicy
Right.
on one side, artsy on the other.
Do you see why I'm having
That's the plushie
conflict?
that we need. No, that's the forget
Two-faced.
your existential crisis. I want the plushie.
But that's where I'm at. So I was like, okay, so how can I use my skills and what I love to do and make a career in this next chapter of my life?
Sure.
And honestly, YouTube is the answer.
Yes,
That's
is.
it.
Yep.
Because a lot of my service-based business is about location.
Yeah.
I need to be, the reason we can't move Melbourne is because everyone I know is here and this is where my income is.
Yeah.
Same with G and his business. And I was like, well, if it's YouTube,
Yeah, you
I'm
can go anywhere.
mobile. So
So can I change my good news because yours was way better than mine, and I feel inferior.
because of the plushie or this?
So I want to change my good news because my mum drove me down to Melbourne today.
Your mummy.
My mum. No, she had to go to Melbourne, and so she drove the car, and I sat in the back seat with a laptop editing this morning because I'm trying to squeeze everything I can out of every minute of every day. And then we chatted for a little while. Right towards the end of the trip, I'd finished my editing, and my brain needed a break, so we had a good little chat. And she asked me a question. The mum questions,
Yeah.
right? The ones where actually I don't know because you don't. Maybe it's a bit different for you in your family circumstance. But
Don't really ask
anyway,
my mum anything,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
sure.
no. Well, yeah. So my mum just says to me, "Do you like what you're doing now?"
Yeah. And you had to think about
And
it.
I was driving, and well, I did take my time to answer, but the answer was a resounding yes, and that kind of surprised me a little bit because I've heard people talk about loving what they do, getting up in the morning, can't wait to get to work, blah blah blah. It's always been this other thing. It's this thing that other people have, that other people get. It's not a thing that I have. It's not a thing that I get. My favorite job until this year was when I was driving a forklift in a refrigerated warehouse, supplying all the fruit and veg and milk to Coles. Right, that was my favorite job because it couldn't follow you home. Unlike a desk job, you can't drive a forklift at 9 o'clock at night in your own home. That's there's a few rules around that. But I clock on, I work, I clock off. That's fine. I enjoyed the work itself. Driving a forklift's kind of fun, lifting things up, putting them down, shuffling, trying to beat your own times, and just a bit of competition with yourself, the gamification of your own life in the form of targets and everything at work. Like I enjoyed all of that, and all the TOEFL stuff was this hobby. It was almost a compulsion. It was this thing that I couldn't get away from, and I tried a few times. I tried to stop, but I never could see how I could make any money out of it. And then, of course, this year was all about going, okay, well, I've got to get serious about this. I'm 40. At that point, I was nearly 43 years old. I am now. I've got 3 kids. I've got to get serious about this, or I've got to let it go. I've either got to make it pay the bills, or I've got to stop because it's costing my family too much. And the era that we are entering in Australia, I owe it to my family to be focused on looking after them, and that means making some money. And so it becomes, I can choose to do things that cost me money. That's fine. But now I'm a dad. I have a wife. I have 3 kids, and I have responsibilities to them, and I've got to get much more serious. So January, I embarked on this journey that's led me halfway through the year now. I'm in an entirely different situation to what I was. I'm now actually earning a median sort of salary over the course. If you annualize the last month, it'll be a median salary for Australia. And I'm kind of like, this is amazing. This is transformational, given that I've basically been doing it for free or worse. It's actually been costing me money all my life up until now. And so I sat there, but what I hadn't done is asked myself, do I like it? And so Mum said, do you like what you're doing now? And I realized, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I really like it. I look forward to coming down here and doing podcasts with you. I get up in the morning. I'm usually up between 5:30 and 6 in the morning to start reading the news and researching. I've usually got some idea of what the next video needs to be based on what I was researching the day before, that sort of stuff. I'll get up in the morning and my brain just starts going, oh, yes, there's this, there's that. There's starting to join the dots. Oh, I need to research that particular thing. I don't know enough about that thing over there. And my brain wants to just get into the work of the day. And I've never had that before.
Oh, I'm
So-
so glad you have that.
My good news is I like what I'm doing.
Oh, I was going to like make fun of you, but I can't because that's a really good one. Do you know, it's funny you say that because I feel the same way whenever it comes to this sort of stuff. Like, you know, whether it's me trying to figure out how to do something for the Oddcast, making the thumbnails,
Yeah.
researching, doing the show notes, I actually want to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting any money for this, by the way.
Yeah. I'm not paying it. It's my money. No, the Oddcast doesn't make anything yet.
No, not yet, which is fine.
In due course.
But I can see that it will. I can
Yeah.
see that there's an opportunity here. And I think what I was trying to say before about spicy Carls is I keep trying to suppress it. I'm like, just let it go, you know, because on my Instagram, I'm always conflicted because, I want to be a photographer, but like there's too much going in the world for me to not say it.
You want to be this, but actually you're this.
Yeah. And so this is my thought, and you guys can enjoy this. I would like to be, you know, a YouTuber that can then take photos because, you know, I build a profile because unfortunately you need the doors to open.
Sure.
Then I can go and take amazing photos of people and, you know, interview them podcast style whilst I'm photographing them, and that could be YouTube content. There's all these ideas.
Yeah. But 100%. The idea that being artsy and being a political commentator is somehow mutually exclusive doesn't exist on the left of politics. They can be as political as they want. They can be as outspoken as they want. They can piss off as many people as they want because they've got the ecosystem around them where they can still earn a living. In fact, it helps them to earn a living if they are political. What we need to do is to break through on the libertarian side of politics, the small government, less taxes, less regulation. We're, instead of trying to use the government to save the world, we're trying to save the world from government.
Yes.
That's fundamentally the difference. We need to build the ecosystem so that it's no longer exclusive. You can be an outspoken, loud and proud libertarian political animal, Spicy Carls, and one of the greatest photographers of all time. There's no reason that can't be.
Isn't it funny when you say that? I said that to someone the other day. I said it to my university. I call them lecturers. They're supervisors. My supervisor for my masters.
Yeah.
And I promised I wouldn't talk about my masters, but it's a big thing in my life at the moment. I can't not talk about it. But I was giving my presentation, and for the first time, so I'll share this with you guys. You know, my lecturers and supervisors know I'm not woke.
Sure.
It's not a secret. They're well aware. And I think some of my trolls have actually emailed them to try and get me kicked out. Turns out one of my lecturers is also not woke.
Excellent.
But, you know,
Yeah, they've got to play the game.
has to play the game.
Yeah.
And I gave my final update. So I'm on a semester break now. I got 2 months off. And we had to do our
It's
final.
a hard life doing a master's. I mean, only 2 months of midterm, mid-year break. Like, how do you do it?
It was like 12 weeks of uni. That's it. No, because the onus is on you to work outside of it. But I had to do my final presentation, and I've actually turned a corner, right? I kind of knew what I was doing, but I was just waiting for it to like come together, and it just one day went.
It's got a gel in your head.
It did.
Yeah.
And so what that gel moment was is I'm now animating the images that I'm creating.
Oh.
Right? And they're weird, they're grotesque, they make you uncomfortable. I can show you guys some if
It's kind
you're
of like a
interested.
photograph of me. That's amazing.
It's this podcast. But I played it and you know, they don't give away a lot. They don't give you a lot of encouragement. That's not really their job. Their job is to play the devil's advocate, to give you different routes to explore and to really push you. And like at times it bothers me. I'm like, can you just tell me I'm doing a freaking good job? Like I'm getting annoyed.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, I showed this, I showed my presentation and I just looked at all their faces and it was like shock, disgusted in the best way. Like they were just like they were horrified.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they were kind of like speechless of like, Carly, this is actually incredibly profound. Like this is it. You've done it.
Yeah, cool.
And I was like, oh, Christ, you know, like, thank you.
That's a good moment though.
Well, because I feel like I'm pushing, you know, shit up a hill because I've got everything against me ideologically because, you know, a lot
you
of
don't align with the easy stuff.
No, and there's a lot of people who are doing LGBT stuff, they're doing Aboriginal stuff, they're doing all of that current stuff. And look, I'm not disparaging that. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that you can't research that stuff. That's fine.
Hey, if someone actually believes in it and they're not just doing it cynically because it fits in and it's
Yeah,
good
or it's
for
an
the career, blah, blah,
easy
blah. If you
pass.
actually believe in that, hey, I'm a libertarian.
Yeah.
You go for it.
Exactly. And like, don't get me wrong, there's one person whose work is in the LGBT stuff, and I actually think her work is just Insane.
Yeah.
So freaking good.
Yeah.
Talented. But the point I was saying is like, I'm not getting any easy rides. I'm literally getting resistance at every turn.
Yeah.
And finally, I was like, oh my God, I've cracked them. Jesus.
But also
Excuse my French.
that's going to lead to you coming out with greater benefit than the people that perhaps were more, ideologically aligned with the supervisors and therefore just didn't get pushed as hard. Didn't have to find that perfect threading of the needle in order to really nail what they're doing.
It was harder in the short term, but I think the best in the long term. And the reason I brought this up is because at the end of it, my, the feedback loop, they were like, well, Carly, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be one of the best photographers of all time. And they kind of laughed, oh, that's cute, darling. And I was like, no, I'm not joking.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't be.
I'm deadly serious. Yeah. This is actually what I want. That is like, and I totally respect that not everyone wants to be the best in the world. That's fine. Yeah. I do.
And also in something like photography, it's very hard to define what the best actually means. But nevertheless, for whatever you mean in that, you want to be the best in the world.
Yeah, I want people to be like Annie Leibovitz, Carl J. Soda. I know it's ambitious. Yeah. I know it's ridiculous. You realise
that middle initial is usually reserved for like assassins and serial killers. Just to make you aware.
John Wayne Gacy.
Well, it's sort of we know the middle initial or middle name of more sort of presidential assassins than we do almost any other category of human being. So if you want to shoot somebody in a different sense, keep the J.
Yeah.
If not,
just Carl's. I'm just known as Carl's.
Well, see, that's when you know you've made it. It's like Beyonce. You don't have to say Knowles.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Beyonce is, right?
Yeah. Is there a famous like apart from Carly Simon, because she's from the 80s?
I don't even know who that is.
You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain.
Sorry.
Come on.
Obviously, it's about me. I have no idea why you would even say that.
She sang that song. That's who I'm named after. Carly Simon. Yeah.
Wow. No idea. None.
Apart from Carly Simon, is there a famous Carls or Carly? I don't know one.
Is there a famous Carls or Carly? That's the question. No, I don't know one either.
I don't know one.
Yeah, no.
I don't know a famous Topher, but you've mentioned there is one.
Well, Topher Grace is the best known. There have been a few others as well, and there's a few around. Like I wasn't the first, and I'm not the only one. But I'm just going around slowly eliminating all of my competition and
waiting for them to die.
Well, not waiting. They advertise their existence on social media, so it's very easy to hunt them down. And then I just sort of put those websites you can go to where they're like, put up a photo and I'll tell you where it is. I put up a photo of them, find out where they are, go and deal with the problem, and just slowly, one by one, just work my way through them.
I love it. If we weren't on the ASIO watch list before, we definitely
are now. Yeah.
Okay, so shall we get into the topics?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, so today's topics is...
Brace yourself, there's a lot.
Channel 10 has axed the project.
What? Oh, do you know about Q&A?
I've heard that's on the chopping block too, but you do not derail me right now.
Sorry.
Greta sailed to Gaza and then was deported.
She saved the world though, so she's going home. It's fine.
I have so much to say. LA riots and looting, peaceful protesting.
Yeah, honestly.
The rubber bullet hitting the Aussie reporter.
Gosh. Did you hear about the chemical weapons? I'll be doing a video on this.
Stop. Gavin Newsom versus Trump. Elon versus Musk.
Elon versus Musk. Wow, split personality.
Elon versus Trump, the lovers' quarrel.
Oh, the lovers tearful. It looks like they might have kissed. It's me.
More Machete Madness in Melbourne.
I can't get a word in edgewise.
I told you, there's a lot here. Violent offender released and leaving again.
Yeah. More.
And Carl's has just hit the limit. She wants off the planet.
Yep.
That's literally a topic. Yep. And then
that's fair.
We shared this at the same time, hilariously. The Herald Sun has alerted us to a new pandemic-level coronavirus that's one step away.
Super serial this time, guys. Super serial. I know it wasn't last time, but it's super serial this time.
Yeah, because if the first 15,
No. But now, having been wrong 15 times in a row, now we know what we're looking for.
So, who do you want to tackle first? LA, the project, or Greta? I'll let you choose.
Let's start with the project. Let's start with the one that's at home.
Okay, so
let's start with the project.
Completely stuffed up my...
Oh, well, then you tell me.
No,
Don't give me a choice and then whinge about my choice.
No, I just need to... Now I do this.
Ooh.
And then I do this.
Is there a way you can make it like full screen? And get rid of like the tabs at the top? Like, because F11 will do that on a PC, but you use a Mac piece of crap, so I don't know how to drive one of those. That didn't work. because we've got all the icons down the bottom and all the tabs.
Oh,
at the
I
top
don't
and-
know. Let me have one thing. I actually don't know how to do
Yeah,
that.
that's right. You'll figure it out. All right. What have we got?
Channel 10 has confirmed the project will be coming to an end after a 16-year run.
Now, I want to dance on their grave, but let's be fair. In life, 16 years is a very long time for a TV show to run. If a business ran for 16 years, that's a successful business. I don't care if it goes bankrupt in the end. That was a successful business. That is a really good run. So credit where it's due. In Australia, they kind of pioneered a new angle on the news. They were the most informal.
They were actually good when they started.
They were.
The
actually
original lineup was good.
good. And they pioneered a new kind of approach to news, because before then it really was the nightly news, and that was
the
that. It was
bulletin,
that
yeah.
heavy, serious kind of thing. And they've been a successful show for 16 years, but they have also been ideologically captured for most, if not all, of
Is
those
that
16
since
years.
Paramount took them out in 2016? Paramount, the US company, they bought out Channel 10. Is that when that all sort of started?
I would suggest that it was probably baked in from the start. It's a little bit like the ABC saying, "Oh, we've only become biased since the Labor government came in." No, you've been biased for decades, right? That's kind of baked into the cake. But also journalism as an industry, like the
being
talent
co-opted.
pool. If you wanted, let's say we knew the voting records of every single media personality, and we wanted to cast 50-50, you would have a lot of people voting Labor and Greens to pick from, and very few people voting Liberal, National, not that they're even all that conservative anymore. And so just the talent pool that you've got to draw from, you're trying to put together a show, you're a producer, you want ratings, you're looking for who's popular. It is going to be basically impossible for you to create anything other than a left-wing skewed show. And that's what it's been all the way through. I'm glad to see it go, because I think they've become sloppy and careless in their degree of bias.
No, I think it's Waleed has become, he believes he's untouchable.
Yeah.
And therefore he can spew his ideological nonsense and no one's allowed to question him.
What's that segment
He's
that he would
so
do?
disingenuous.
Or where he just does this monologue to the camera or something, and
No,
gets
it was
his
a
round
sermon.
of applause. Gets his round of applause at the end.
It's because he and, they're academics, so therefore anything that Waleed says is correct.
Yeah, but he's also, he belongs to some of the protected minority groups, etc. There's a lot of intersectionalism going on there as well. I was about to name them, but I don't want to get sued. So he holds a privileged position where he can say things and on mainstream media and get away with them when others can't. But also, they broadly speaking adhere to the basket of goods that is left-wing ideology.
Yes.
We've talked about this before. It's like, why is Greta getting involved in Israel versus Gaza? Well, because it's part of the basket of goods. She's a hero of the left, and in order to maintain her status as a hero of the left, she has to be on board all of the causes, not just one of them.
And you could tell by the guests they would have on the project. Because, for example, I remember COVID times. When I did that viral video, I was on every news channel, and I was happy to do that because I was happy to say what I needed to say.
Sure.
The only one I wasn't on was the project.
Yeah, right.
And I thought that was really interesting because Channel 10, Channel 9, Channel 7, ABC, and I was on multiple shows. I was in The Age, I was in the Herald Sun. The only people that I didn't get reached out to was Channel 10.
Well, it's interesting because when you look at sort of the line they have to walk, so they've got their token conservative in Steve Price. And Steve Price, he's the older bloke who's been on there. They kind of put him in there when they were under a lot of pressure for their bias. And Steve has some good things to say. He's more of a conservative than he is a libertarian. And even then, he's not that conservative in some respects, in my personal opinion. But he's come out recently saying, these people dancing on the grave of the project, you don't know what you're talking about. It was a breath of fresh air. It was this, it was that. No, sorry, Steve.
You're a bit biased, mate.
That was your paycheck for a number of years, and I understand that. Nothing convinces you of something more than being paid by it does, and that's just human nature. I'm not saying that's a Steve Price thing. That's just human nature. It's very difficult to be right when your paycheck requires you to be wrong. Okay, fine. But no, they were not a worthy addition to the Australian cultural or political landscape for at least the last 10 years.
I would argue they weren't necessarily journalists. They were just opinion pieces. And that's fine, but don't tell me you're breaking news or you're giving me the facts. You would deliberately...
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point, because what the project did in breaking down that kind of formal bulletin style is they really blurred the line between opinion and actual news. And we've talked about this before. I'm not a journalist, and I don't claim to be a journalist. I want everyone to know up front, I have opinions. I'm talking about my opinions. Now, in my opinion, they are well-researched opinions, but they are still opinions. I'm not hard news. They blurred that line so that it was impossible at times to really tell where they went from, hey, let's tell you about the events that happened, to we're going to tell you what we think about what happened.
And you knew that by the guests they'd have on there. I mean, Clementine Ford was often on there, you know, your Abby Chatfields and all that. But also everyone on there happened to align with their gender. They very rarely had someone on there that was not aligned.
There was a genuine contrarian. And if they did, it was an ambush. On the rare occasions where they did, it was an ambush.
100%. I remember Isaac Butterfield was on there, but then they, exactly that, ambushed him. They're trying to get that got you clip out of them.
Correct.
And I just don't have time for that. I accept that people will never necessarily align with my views, and I'm okay with that. And I am okay with you never aligning with my views, but don't try and constantly talk down to people.
And don't try and pretend that you're something that you're not. Just acknowledge the fact that you come at life with a perspective, with a bias. That's okay. We all do. Just be honest about it.
Now, I need to play you something, and I actually don't know how this will play audio-wise. Well, will this be capturing audio?
I sure hope so. Otherwise, you're going to have some audio to add in the edit.
We're trying
It probably will. It probably will.
So we're going to close that.
Oh, actually, you know what? Because I reckon if I go, so video clips is currently turned on. So if you start playing, I'll watch the little bouncing thing that we've got on our screen.
Oh, why did it shrink?
See.
I didn't mean to shrink. What's happening?
Not Geordie's.
Oh, no, it's funny. It's funny. The whole point of me showing you Geordie's is because this is the first time that I'm like, I agree with you.
What more needs to be said? If you want to gratuitously rub it into them like Sky News did, enemy of my enemy, how good is this headline? Actually, it was more of a mercy killing than an axing. Oh, man, I'll tell you, I haven't felt this alive since BuzzFeed was cancelled. Bam! And this was just BuzzFeed television. Eat shit, you soulless corporate woke hat. Just think about the people that have lost their job. And I have thought about it. And it's made me even happier.
Yeah, all right, fine.
It's like, I actually like Geordie's today.
Yeah, all right.
I actually reckon, Geordie's is a character, Arvy's a character, Spicy Carl's a character. I reckon we'd actually get along with Geordie's.
At a personal level. At a personal, like, we're going to disagree a lot politically, and it would come down to whether he can sit in a room with people who he's just had a tiff with over a specific policy issue and still be friends with him. There's plenty of people. I have significant disagreements with Arvy. We get along great. I have significant disagreements with Rukshan. We get along great. I'm working on finding more disagreements with you because I feel like there's not enough yet, and there's just not enough kind of conflict.
We're too aligned
and spark.
on too many things.
I know. It's just boring. It's just boring. That's what it is, Carls. You just need to be more contrarian. But no, that's true, and I posted up on social media. There was a big a graphic made by, I think, the Herald Sun saying, it's the axing of Channel 10's The Project is going to cost 100 jobs. And I posted it up and said, those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up. It's only... we need to clean out the whole industry. Now, look, I don't want to dance on the grave, certainly, of the people who work in a technical capacity and in the back end. I've had a bit to do with film production, a bit to do with television production over the years, and there's a lot of hardworking, sincere people who are just trying to get a gig, and it's a really tough industry to make a living. So that is unfortunate for them. But that is also the case in every industry. Some businesses live, some die, some shows live, some die. But I'm loving the rumours around Q&A. Because I tell you what, if The Project and Q&A go down in the same month, that is going to be a good month.
The interesting thing about Q&A, I grew up watching that, right, with my parents. That was the serious news show. And what I found really interesting is, again, the people they'd have on there. Every now and then you'd have someone in the audience asking genuinely really good questions, and the whole panel was left-leaning. So it didn't matter how amazing that guest was, they weren't going to give that person any airtime. But then they platformed a lot of people, and I brought up, was it last week or the week before's episode where I talked about Denny Todorovic, the Geelong guy? And the reason they brought him in is because he was that typical, he was the token non-binary, queer, trans, flamboyant man. And they platformed Denny when he was talking about, oh God, was he talking? It was something about queer people, queer rights. I can't remember what it was. And then literally a week later is when he just went absolutely
nuts.
cataclysmic.
And speaking of cataclysmic, have you seen the Clementine Ford rant around Israel and Gaza and all the rest of it?
You brought this up to me. I
did. Well,
hadn't.
I just thought that you would have just lapped it up. I haven't dived in
I
because
don't
I thought
watch
you were
her
going to have a
shit,
rant.
dude.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, let's move on then. But yes, so who they would platform, but also they're a really interesting case study, Q&A, back to them, a case study in how to lie with statistics. You see, part of the whole shtick for Q&A is the panel is balanced between two different points of view. Well, okay, but if one point of view is extreme left and the other point of view is only somewhat left, you've got balance between those 2 points of view, but those 2 points of view are not a balanced expression of the community's perspective. And so lying with statistics, they can honestly say, oh no, we had equal people on both sides of this issue. Well, yes, but both sides of that particular issue were selected because they were already far left. So this is a framing thing where they're suggesting that you should be somewhere in between these 2 points of view, but they pick points of view that are way off in their direction. The second big lie around Q&A is that the audience is vetted and balanced for who they vote for and blah, blah, blah. That is just purely self-declared. And it is obviously not true. There is a subculture amongst people who like to go to Q&A that they lie about who they vote for in order to stack the audience and make the audience hostile and give this perception. What a wonderful marketing opportunity where you can just get a couple of your mates together and it's going to be broadcast out to the world that a balanced audience holds certain views. The incentive is for you to go in there, lie about who you vote for, lie about what you support, and then create a very unbalanced atmosphere inside the room. And I would argue there is tremendous evidence from show after show to say that the audience was not nearly as balanced as what the producers claimed it was. And we know that because the expressed opinion of the audiences and the kinds of questions being asked were not then reflected in things like referendum results around the voice, even referendum results around gay marriage. The gay marriage referendum was successful, but not by nearly as much as you would have expected had you just listened to the ABC, just watched Q&A, just watched The Project, just looked at the polls. These are lies with statistics, and Q&A is an absolute case study in that.
I just found what I was talking about. So just speaking of Q&A, so this is Denny. And I don't know who that is next, but this was all around the suspension of Moira Deeming.
Yeah.
So this is when Denny was on Q&A, and then it goes on to talk about, the loss of the seat of Ashton and all that sort of stuff. And then down here, Denny was talking about as a trans person, she'd gotten off easy with her suspension from the party room because remember she was at the Let the Women Speak?
Yeah.
And then he said what happened at Parliament with Posey Parker was like something out of The Handmaid's Tale. Trans people aged 14 to 25 are 15 times more likely to take their lives. If someone from the Liberal Party is going to stand next to Posey, I don't know where the excuse was. Whether you knew the neo-Nazis were there or not, you shouldn't have been there. And frankly, by being there, you are proxy approving any anti-trans rhetoric of which is literally Posey's MO. She should have been expelled. And then he later went on to say something about, reiterated that she shouldn't have been there.
It's amazing that it's become fashionable and acceptable to go on television and be opposed to equal rights for women.
Well, since we're here, because this has changed my life because now we can live tangent. We are tangenting. Sing me my song.
So while you go there, can I mention that Moira actually reached out to me to thank us for what we said on last week's podcast?
Did she watch it?
Yeah, she's seen that part. Someone sent her that section, and she reached out and she just said it was really lovely what we said about her.
Yay!
And that's lovely to hear that Moira's watched.
Hey Moira, if you're watching,
Hey.
we think you're awesome, and maybe we can interview you on the podcast. Although the Liberal Party might not like that, so we don't want to get you in any more trouble.
Yes, Moira, you do need to be judicious, and we get that. We won't be offended.
Now, do you know anything about this story?
I don't know what the story is.
Okay,
so
Simone
by
Biles
definition, no.
and
So this
Riley
is American
Gaines.
athletes.
Yes.
Okay, bring me up to speed.
Okay, so to bring you up to speed, Riley Gaines is the outspoken women in sports advocate who was up against Leah Thomas, the swimmer.
Yep.
And she obviously is very well known for being a women's rights campaigner.
Yep.
Simone Biles is a decorated Olympian. She has won many gold medals in the USA gymnastics team.
Yep.
She's now retired. But she came out on the weekend. How this all started, Riley Gaines shared a photo of a kid's, I think it's like a baseball league, and their star player is a guy. And so Riley Gaines wrote something like comments off as to be expected. And then Simone Biles, who, of course, she ticks all the boxes. She's wearing her proud Girl Scouts sash. She's come out saying, Riley Gaines, you're truly sick. All of this campaigning because you lost a race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports, maybe a transgender category in all sports. But instead, you bully them. One thing is for sure, no one in sports is safe with you around. And then she went on to say that you should bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male. Now, Riley Gaines is 5'5". And I just thought that was, trans people aside, imagine a decorated Olympian coming out and torching a woman for speaking up about women's sports.
Can I pick out two things? One of the things that one of my favourite hobbies is just listening to people and what they actually said, because it's very rarely what they think they said. So what she's done is she's actually made a concession to the idea of a transgender section within each sport, which is an acknowledgement that there isn't actually parity at all. So that's actually an acknowledgement that allowing trans women, people who were men, arguably still are, to compete against biological women is not actually fair. So she's acknowledged that even in her comment. She's backed away from the absolute position that she started out at. But secondly, for her to actually turn around and say, I'll pick on some of your own sides, which ironically would be a man, is to acknowledge the biological differences.
Yes.
The very biological differences that Riley Gaines is trying to defend.
Well, interestingly, have a look at these two photos here. Now, these are athletes. They train their whole lives to be athletes.
Yep.
And like I said, Simone is an Olympian. There's a reason she looks the way she does. Now, some people say, oh, she's too muscly. Well, that's what it takes to be a decorated Olympic athlete.
Good diet, hard training, all that stuff.
Yep. So put your bias aside.
Yeah.
But, Simone has come out. This is what I love, the hypocrisy and the double standard. I know we talk about this all the time. But Simone has talked about how she was bullied for her muscles and she used to wear long sweaters or jackets all year long because people would bully her for her muscles. Yeah. And then she's gone on to use that same insult to attack Riley for looking like a man because she has muscles. Yeah. And then to add further intrigue into this, so Simone Biles witnessed and spoke up about this guy, which his name was Larry, it's escaping me. He is a predator and he used to molest and did horrible things to women in gymnastics.
All right.
He's now behind bars. Simone Biles was witness, Larry Nassar, I think his name is. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But so Simone testified in his court case, put him away behind bars. Yep. So Simone knows firsthand what it's like to have a predator in women's sports. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent on what Larry Nassar did. Please go research it on your own. Yeah. But it was heinous. Yeah. Typical predatory stuff. Yeah. So Simone Biles has witnessed that. Yeah. She's testified about that. But now she's saying that because she's on the left of politics and it's the right thing to say we want trans men. It's never we want more trans men in sports. No one's ever talking about having women in men's sports. It's always men in women's spaces. Yep. And it's always men who have this weird autogynephilia. I'm sorry, but this is all sexual fetishism that is being normalized and we're meant to stomach it. There is no reason anyone with male genitalia should be naked around a group of women. Yep. No reason. Yep. And if that's the hill you want to die on, you are fundamentally a fucking moron. Sorry.
Well, you mentioned earlier the suicide rate amongst transgender people is tragically very, very high. But I've made the point previously, and I'll reiterate it here, the suicide rate amongst mentally ill people is very, very high. That is unfortunately what it is. And we can certainly have a serious conversation about how to better accommodate people with mental illness to try and avoid that worst outcome, but to make unsafe environments for women. And let's not forget that women on sports teams include, among them, women who have been abused, who have suffered horrifically at the hands of whether it's a father or a stepfather or an uncle or a coach or a priest or who knows who it may have been. There are women in there that are trying to get on with their lives and deal with their own trauma and move past all of that and go on to great success in sports in the case of what we're talking about here. But it might just be down at your local, they might be rehabilitating and, from having had a baby and they're just down doing swimming as part of their own personal fitness regime. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be elite sports. And what we're saying is that they aren't allowed to have a space where they're not going to be confronted with something that is very confronting for women. I'm sorry, I'm not on board that. And if that means that we have to tell people who have body image, body dysmorphia issues where they don't feel at home in their own body, that they need to use the accessible bathrooms instead of the ladies' bathrooms, then that's what we're going to do.
Are you familiar with a Lily Tino?
No.
I love that we can do this now. I'm gonna.
It's like Joe Rogan.
I'm Jamie and Joe all at once.
But you do realise that the duration of our podcast just jumped by 2 hours. We're now headed for a 5-hour.
Okay, so this individual, this is Lily Tino. Lily Tino is a trans. I always forget which way it goes around. Woman, man to woman. Okay. Lily Tino is someone who has gross sexual desires. I'm sorry. I'm saying it on air. I do not apologize for this. This is someone who gets off on dressing like a woman and being like in women's spaces. Yeah. That's who this person is. Yeah. He's going down the whole route of being deliberately antagonistic to get views and clicks, right? Yeah. So this guy has an OnlyFans. I'm calling him a guy, sorry, because this is a man with autogonophilia. You will never convince me otherwise. He has an OnlyFans, of course, and he regularly goes to Disneyland as an adult with the fucking Mickey Mouse ears and talks about the sex change surgery that he wants. And he'll sit there with food and dissect a hot dog and be like, what they're going to do is grab, like he doesn't say graphically, but he shows it, and there's children around and there's children listening. And so what he did last weekend is he's gone and...
Sorry, can I just pause you? Is that like an official thing where he's there in a kind of official capacity at Disneyland? Or is he just literally some random dude ranting in the cafeteria?
Random dude, literally sitting there. I'll try pull up some videos in a second.
I know, I don't really want to see that. Thank you.
It's... And everything about him is sinister. He's also known for going viral for being misgendered. And what's really interesting is, again, by the left's own standards, Lily Tino, as he calls himself, doesn't quite fit in because he'll go to Disneyland. And I'm kind of like trying to sum this up really quickly because there's a lot to go on here. But Sydney Watson did a really good video about this.
Right.
So he will go into places like Disneyland or restaurants and order food where the servers are usually people of colour or Hispanic. And they're usually not English first speaking or native English speakers. Yeah. And so Lily Tino will then say, my pronouns are she, her. And then obviously the person who's usually an immigrant mucks up and says, no worries, sir, here you go, sir. And then she like makes this big song and dance, and she's usually streaming. Yeah. And so she shames the restaurant, shames the worker.
Attention.
Narcissism,
kind of
100%. All the usual suspects. Yeah. And so now on TikTok, the left are actually coming after Lily for being, for basically racially...
the good old ranking problem.
Right? So now it's kind of like, oh, hang on, you're trans, but you're still white.
Is transphobia worse than racism? Is baiting black people
how do
worse
you
than
differentiate?
misgendering white people? Gosh.
It's getting messy. Yeah. It's getting messy. So what's caused recent stir, and the reason I brought him, her, them up is because the past weekend this person went to Disney World and thought it was a good idea to go into Disney World in Florida where there is very particular rules around women and men in bathrooms. Yeah. And has taken photos and selfies in toilets, as you can see on the screen, in cubicles, with other women in those photos and posted them to social media to rank the public bathrooms. I don't know if it'll let me scroll through this. No, that's just a screenshot.
No one has ever asked, can you rank the bathrooms at Disney World for me so I know which of the bathrooms at Disney World are best?
The whole thing is just, I like this guy. Do you know who Clarkson is? I'm introducing you to so many people. So we need to play this. Hang on. This is to give you context. Will it give me...
Castle. And our server said, yes, sir, when I was asking.
Okay, let's do this, Lily.
Our server said, yes, sir, when I was asking some questions. And I said, oh, no, I'm actually not a sir. And instead of apologizing, or I don't know what else you would do other than apologize, they just walked away. Did not acknowledge what I said, just walked away. The manager came over and, really big smile, not acknowledging at all that the misgender had happened.
Yeah, it's almost like people don't care anymore to appease your victim complex.
And I say, hey, look, the last person, they misgendered me and that really hurt. And they just walked away. And the manager said, oh, well, some people just aren't as progressive as you. And then they gave us a nice little chocolate that suggested they wanted our money but didn't want to say sorry. So we left and got a full refund.
Lily is performing a very manipulative social tactic that we see with a lot of self-obsessed minorities. I like to call it minority manipulation. What Lily is doing is attempting to exert power over other people by establishing moral dominance. Now, in order to establish this dominance, Lily will go out to places, look for reasons to be offended, and then demand apologies. Because when you ask for an apology from someone, you are asking them to admit that they are wrong and you are right. So while Lily claims that these interactions are a knife to the heart every time and that their feelings are so hurt, they're not. This is nothing more than somebody who is self-obsessed and wants to dominate
And
conversation.
literally goes hunting for it.
Yeah.
Literally goes looking for it. And that sums up exactly why we have to. So I've said to you before in the journey you've been on and others as well, never back down at all.
No.
Never apologize, never give an inch, because if you give an inch one time, they will know that you have a threshold at which you will eventually give ground.
The words of Queen Elizabeth, I think it is, never complain, never explain.
I don't know if she said that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But this is
Solid
also
advice.
This is also why the Sorry Day for Indigenous Australians should never have happened. I have nothing to say sorry for. I did nothing wrong. In the same way as I'm not, when a Japanese tourist arrives in Australia, I'm not like, oh, well, you have to say sorry for the Kokoda Trail. No, that's absolute nonsense.
I think what this comes down to is just like the word that keeps going around social media, and I know you're not on socials as much as I am, but I feel like I'm turning into an Aussie version of Brett Cooper. That's where I'm at.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's not
I
a
don't
bad
know.
thing.
Like I feel like that's where I'm
It's not
going.
a bad thing.
Just dissecting what's happening in the pop culture zeitgeist.
Sure.
And there's this general word, like this embrace of this word fatigue, and I've seen it like the first time I saw it was
an embrace of the word fatigue amongst younger people. That's hilarious.
yeah.
Talk to somebody who's 70 about fatigue.
So it started off, and this is not my concept. This is
Sure.
the social media concept,
Sure.
black fatigue.
Okay.
Basically, black people were talking about black fatigue of their own culture,
Yeah.
the ghetto culture, right? That's not my word. I'm not being racist. That was what happened. Please feel free to go and look at it.
Yeah.
But now people are talking about LGBT fatigue,
or just
trans
woke
fatigue.
fatigue. Yeah.
And so fatigue is now the new way of saying, like, I'm so sick of it.
I'm over it.
I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm
Yeah.
fed up.
Yeah.
And I have been saying this for a while. This is simmering. And I know a lot of people are like, it's got to get worse. It's got to get worse.
No,
and I
no.
do.
I've said it's peaked.
No,
absolutely
I don't mean woke's peak. I mean, in general, like people's disdain for what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
It is palpable, but it's simmering. It's like, imagine a volcano that is underwater. You can't see it, but you can see a little bit of steam bubbles coming up.
And
It will
people are
inevitably
still
happen.
afraid. It's still being held back a little bit because they're afraid of the social sanction and so on and
Yes.
so forth. But once enough people have done it and gotten away with it, then it will kind of everyone will be off the leash.
100%.
You've reminded me. You just insulted me. I'm sorry.
Stabbed you in the heart?
You stabbed me in the heart by suggesting that
Excellent.
I'm not on social media. Did you know that I've been going viral on TikTok?
Oh, Jesus. Are you on TikTok?
No.
Oh.
But someone got a hold of one of my YouTube videos and did a reaction thing to it. Apparently, quite a large account, agreeing with it.
Oh, thank God.
I don't
Being
ca-
cancelled is exhausting.
No, I don't care whether they agree or disagree. They can say whatever they believe to be true. But no, in this case, they were agreeing with it and went out on TikTok. And it's like, oh, good. Well, my work is being spread. I have evangelists. I have disciples.
Excellent.
Taking it worldwide, including into the dark wasteland of TikTok.
I have been on TikTok. I deleted my account after I got robbed last year, and I put a thing up. And I knew, this is the thing, if you're ever going to make a claim on a platform like TikTok, you've got to have your receipts because people are going to come for you. And obviously on the left, TikTok's co-opted by the left. And, I'm the COVID chick, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I put up the robbery happened, youth crime, yada, yada, yada. But then I also put up the CCTV footage of our car being stolen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that video I put up went viral, and then someone who hates me found it, commented on it, and then there was reaction videos, because that's what we do now. We react to everything, kind of like we're doing right now in this podcast. And essentially what happened was, then all the hate started again.
Sure. Yeah.
And TikTok is the wasteland.
It's vicious. Yeah.
It is. There is no holes barred there. They are just horrible, horrible people. And I turned it off because I was like, I could get in there and defend myself. I could let the storm pass. And I was like, no, you know what? TikTok is always going to exist. I can't do anything about it, but I don't need it to invade my space.
Yeah.
And I've been asked to go back on TikTok, and I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
If my content makes its way there, then great.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have it on my phone. I don't want to look at it. I'm just
Yep.
protecting my peace.
I believe I do actually have a TikTok account. It was set up for me by someone who's managing my social media a while ago, and I don't touch it because I don't have the money to pay anybody, so I'm just doing it all myself. But in due course, assuming that things keep going well, another, I don't know how long it'll take, I'll get someone to come in and manage my socials again. And they will then cross-post everything to TikTok, and I will never open it. I will never install it on my phone.
No,
I will never reply to a comment. I will not go on the platform myself, but my content will be there.
Yeah. Okay.
We're so far down the rabbit hole. How many tangents are we in now? Like, we're in tangentception.
But how much value did we just give people?
Okay,
You know,
look,
when have we ever discussed
Okay.
Lily Tino on this podcast?
Look, it's been the void inside of my soul has been filled. We've now talked about Lily Tino.
People are gonna be like, Carly, you are bringing things to our attention that we didn't need to know existed,
that
but now you
ache
do.
that I've lived with for decades is now gone. Thank you.
We
I'm
are
so
literally
glad.
becoming either like we're a smash cut of Tim Cast and Joe Rogan.
Well, there you go. However, we should probably get back to the actual list of. Okay, right. Sorry,
Peaceful
I was behind,
protesting.
Okay, I'm gonna harsh some people's mellow here.
Harsh some people's mellow.
Yeah.
Please do.
It's a storm in a teacup.
Yeah.
Do you know how small that is compared to the size of LA?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, so people look at the burning cars, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
that video. There's like 4 or 5 burning cars lined up in a row. And they go, whoa, because in our imagination, we see the burning cars and we go, that must be in the context of a burning city. Mm-hmm. No, if there was a burning city, they would have shown you pictures of a burning city.
Yeah.
What they're showing you is the worst of it. It is the absolute most impressive, aggressive angle of the destruction they could possibly get. These guys have literally burnt a couple of cars, shut down a couple of intersections, and smashed and looted a couple of stores. That's literally a Tuesday in Chicago.
So we're gonna play this. This is Maxine Waters. Or Waters? This is your typical left
Yeah.
cover up.
Those are mostly peaceful rocks.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so, when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Okay, mark today in your calendar. Mm-hmm. She's half right. She's actually half right.
Yeah.
The reality is, you notice how they started showing the same video.
Yeah.
At the end there is what they'd already shown us before. We've all seen the same images. Why have we seen the same images? Because that's all there is. All right. So in one location, a crowd got really out of hand and they burnt some cars. In another location, they were throwing rocks at a convoy going past. In a couple of other locations, they destroyed property inside car parks and a few buildings were looted. We are talking about a greater metropolitan area of something like 12 million people that is, on an ordinary day, one of the highest crime locations on the face of the planet. Competing with maybe New Orleans and Chicago and maybe, I don't know, Afghanistan somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not downtown Melbourne, and it never is downtown Melbourne. Now, you also know from having seen some of the protests and then watching the media coverage of the protests, right? We get, or think about January 6th, right? It was actually a whole bunch of people with umbrellas wandering through the Capitol building, staying inside the velvet
Grannies.
ropes. But
Yeah.
what did we see? We saw Hornsman sitting on the chair. We heard all about these horrible things that happened. Well, most of those things never happened. And the handful of photographs that are used as proof that these awful things happened are actually like, that's as bad as it got.
Yeah.
Right?
That's such a good point, actually, when you talk about this. You talk about the fact that if there was a better photo, we would have been
Correct.
shown it. If there was better footage, we would have seen it.
If a part of downtown LA was on fire and there was a skyscraper burning, you better believe we would be watching
Yeah.
that non-stop on rotation
Well, like
on the news.
when the Summer of Love, when they burnt down the Minneapolis police station. That was everywhere. We
Correct.
saw that. It was
Correct.
like a city block that
or
was
the
blocked
Chaz,
off.
the Seattle Capitol Hill
Yeah.
autonomous zone thing,
Yeah.
where they had the barricades up and even murder went through the roof inside that couple of blocks. We saw all of it.
Yeah.
So what we've just seen, that's all of it.
Yeah.
Right? And we're talking LA here.
I also don't know why are Australians so invested? Why do we care? It's LA.
I want to get to
It's a shithole.
I want to get to the rubber bullet in a minute and the chemical weapons. But before that, I want to talk about martial law. So martial law has been declared a couple of times in Los Angeles previously. 1992 for the
Rodney King
Rodney
riots.
King, thank you. So the LAPD were acquitted of the accusation that they'd used excessive force when they arrested Rodney King, and that triggered some riots. We got the rooftop Koreans out of that, which is a wonderful meme. Do you know the rooftop Koreans?
No, but I'll find
Google
it while you're
rooftop
talking.
Koreans and give me a picture. The picture that comes up, I already know which picture is going to come up. It's this iconic picture. So Koreans and African Americans already had beef for a couple of reasons before the Rodney King thing went down. I don't know. I can't see what you're pointing at. So you might want to give me something to look at, and I'll tell you. Okay, so that one, the big one on the right, that is the iconic picture. Click on that for me, but we're going to come back to the one with the arrow. That picture there, all right? So that is a bunch of Korean shop owners in Koreatown, in downtown, or not quite downtown, but in Los Angeles during the 1992 Rodney King riots, and they have automatic rifles on their rooftop to shoot anyone that comes to loot and riot in their stores.
Fair.
Guess how much looting and rioting happened after they got on the roof?
None.
Precisely zero. Now, martial law was declared unilaterally by George Bush Sr. He didn't get an invitation from the California governor to do it. He did it unilaterally on the basis that it was his opinion that California were not correctly handling the situation. He has the power to do that under the insurrection law. Yes, the insurrection law is a very old law. I get curious when people say, "Oh, it's an old law. He shouldn't be using an old law." Well, it's still on the books because it didn't need to be changed. Right? We left it there because we went, yeah, that should stay there.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And I'm the first one to be all about repealing laws, but okay.
Just because it's old doesn't mean it's redundant.
Correct. And the fact that it's survived that long unchanged might be an indication that actually, yeah, there's a good reason it's there, and it's there for exactly this. Sent in the National Guard, may have sent in Marines, I'm not sure, but nationalised the California National Guard, sent them in, brought peace to the streets. But that was a situation where there were, I believe, already 63 people dead when he called the National Guard. That's a situation where you declare martial law and call in the National Guard. Or we can go back to 1965, the Mills, something or other riots, 30 people dead, called in the National Guard. That's when you call in the National Guard. The National Guard are a paramilitary organisation. They are, by definition, people with guns who fix problems by killing people. That's what a military does. Right? I used to be Army Reserve. I don't say that for credit or whatever. I'd never deployed, never did anything major. But this is the role of the infantry according to the Army. The role of the infantry is to seek out and close with the enemy, to kill or capture him by day or by night, regardless of season, weather, or terrain. That is the role of the enemy. Winning hearts and minds isn't one of them. Quelling riots without killing people isn't one of them. You don't call in the National Guard unless there's bodies in the streets. So, in my opinion, 1992, 1965, those were times when you call in the National Guard. There's bodies in the streets. Now, a couple of burning cars and a governor who won't use LAPD resources to help your federal agents to deport people. No. I think Trump, and I nearly released a video on this already, but I've got to go back and re-record it because I'm not happy with it. Trump made a huge tactical mistake and he rescued Newsom. So Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. This could have been a noose around his neck. He would have become Gavin Newsom. This was an absolute nightmare situation for him where all Trump needed to do was to send more ICE agents in and take them away from those very, very localized trouble spots.
Yeah.
Deal with all the other stuff first and then come back to those trouble spots when you can just pour all of your resources into that. But there's a lot of other people that ICE could be chasing all over LA and California where this trouble isn't going to repeat itself.
Yeah.
If the riots continue, it's a Gavin Newsom problem, right? Hey, Californians, are you happy with this? Is this how you want your Democrat governor?
As Californians, though, you've just had the Pacific Palisades fires,
Which was also a Democrat governor mismanagement
right,
problem.
and we know exactly what happened with that. We've had the Summer of Love riots. That was really bad. That was 2021. There was the George Floyd. Wasn't there something in 2022 as well?
Look, who can keep up?
If you lived in LA, if you owned a business in downtown LA, like what reason could you possibly have to stay there?
But
why?
Okay, so you've been to LA, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. You remember how vast it is?
Yes.
So understand, when we were marching in Melbourne with the COVID anti-lockdown protests, we could have 10,000 of us marching down one street in the city. On the next street over, people living there would have had no idea that we were there.
Yeah.
Los Angeles is vast.
It is vast, but I would like to say this, though. LA, you can't get anywhere without going on a freeway.
Yes.
It's not like Melbourne.
Shutting down the freeways is very effective.
You cannot drive from suburb to suburb in LA. I mean, technically can,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
wouldn't. You would
won't
be there
have
forever.
And you won't have wheels left on your car
Correct.
by the time you get through. Yeah.
I think I've told this story before where my curiosity was way too high. I was staying in Torrance. So I used to go to the CrossFit Games every year in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It was at the StubHub Center, which is in Carson. And so I used to try and find accommodation as close as I could, Torrance, Long Beach, somewhere there. And this particular year, I was like, wow, Compton's like just there. What's going to happen? And I did. I drove into Compton and
You got straight out of Compton?
I was like, shit. Yeah, okay, this was a really bad idea. It was very evident. As soon as you turned a corner, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And, I ended up speaking to some Americans and they were just saying like, that's so reckless, man. Like it's not a tourist hotspot.
Yeah.
You don't go there.
Just don't. Yeah.
You're asking for trouble. It's like going to Skid Row. A lot of people want to go there just to see it. They're like, you are asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
But
So LA riots, massively overblown. Is there a problem? Yes. It's a law enforcement problem. Trump just interrupted his enemy when he was making mistakes. And Napoleon Bonaparte, never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake.
what I thought was funny though is that Gavin Newsom has got more time to tweet than he does anything. So he's already started out he's already suing Trump. He's gone on and on and on, like just back and forth on Twitter. And I'm like, dude, haven't you got a job to do?
Yeah.
And like, so
your city is burning, apparently, according to the news.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the apocalypse. It's Mad Max
terrible.
out there.
And it's like, martial law and Trump's bloody got the, what do you call it, the Marines down there.
Yeah.
But Gavin Newsom's got time to go on a podcast, go on X.
Yeah, but also look, the truth is always hiding in plain sight. So Donald Trump says, I'm going to send in the National Guard. You go, oh, wow, okay, this is a military takeover. 2,000 troops. So that's the number of Victoria Police they had trying to shut down the non-violent, non-destructive, no arson, no smashed windows protests against the COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
Right? And they couldn't even successfully do that.
Yeah.
Right? We kept escaping their grasp and getting out.
Yeah.
2,000 troops is an admission. This is a very localized problem.
Yeah.
Right, you've got to add at least one, if not two more zeros on the back end of before you've got enough manpower to actually do anything on a citywide scale.
But aside from all this, like we could sit here and tit for tat with like this happened and this happened. Zooming out, as I like to do, isn't this exhausting? The looting, the rioting, there's all these photos of Mexican immigrants waving the Mexican flag on the burning car. You hate America that much that you don't want to be deported.
Nothing says I love my adopted country more than flying the flag of your original country whilst burning the flag of your new one. Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be these idiots that jump into this stuff, right? There's always going to be these antagonists, anarchists.
And there are gang members amongst the American society now that have crossed illegally.
I'm not talking about that.
All that's true.
What I'm talking about is just your general average Joe citizen.
Yep.
Are you not fucking over it? I want to play you a clip. I saved this for a reason. Oh, not Greta. Hang on, this one. So this is your typical leftist, right? So before we get into this, we've got two white liberals here and we've got this person of color. And the only reason I bring up identity politics is because the left does. This is the left's, like, who wins here? So you got two liberals who are arguing over the importance of immigrants today.
Yeah.
And then this is a black woman who's saying, I need to be able to get to work,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to play this clip. And again, I'm going to keep turning the microphone.
And again, Helen Dale with a ranking problem. Helen Dale was right. How do you rank?
So...
Really?
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work? Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problem. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
Yeah. So I have a chapter on this in my book. Ha ha! Everybody buy my book. I actually use exactly this example. If you've got 10,000 people in your protest, you're going to block a street, and that's completely fine. You're going to block the road. But what you must not do is choose to block the road with 3 people. Okay, but you don't need to. The road is public space. We can argue about the tragedy of the commons and whether public property should exist, blah, blah, blah. We can have a big philosophical argument about that. Right now, in the world we live in, it does exist. And it is the right of the public to use that property. If you as 3 people want to deprive a couple of thousand people of being able to pass through, well, you are misusing that public property. You don't need to stand there. You could stand on the footpath with your signs and your chants. And in fact, more people are going to see you because you're letting them pass you by. Arguably, you're going to have a bigger impact. But even if that weren't true, you've no right to deprive everyone else of the use of that property. If you've got 100,000 people, roads are going to get blocked, and that becomes a legitimate use of that property because 100,000 of the people that pay for that property have said, this is how we want to use this property today. The numbers speak for themselves. This kind of selfishness, we've got 3 people, we're going to block a road because we can. Or we're going to block a road when it's not absolutely genuinely necessary that road is going to get blocked by the sheer number of people, is absolute selfishness masquerading as care for others. And honestly, I mean, I'm getting crankier as I get older. A few of these people getting run over would solve this problem really quickly.
We have seen this a lot with the Just Stop Oil people, the people who araldite their hands to the bitumen.
Yep.
This, I said before about fatigue, this is fatigue. And what you're going to see is, like I said, it's like that below the surface volcano that is bubbling away. It is going to erupt. It's not when, if, it's when.
You know what the Germans do when people glue their hands to the road?
No.
They dig up that piece of bitumen, escort them off to the side of the road, have a crew there waiting with some tar and bitumen to fill in the pothole, apologise to the driver that was held up and move out of the way.
Yeah.
And that person now has to fix it themselves.
Yeah.
You glued it.
Your problem.
You've got a piece of road attached to your hand. Congratulations.
Like bringing it back to the Just Stop Oil people, when they throw the soup at Van Goghs and things like that,
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it. They want attention. I understand all that. What I'm saying is how fucking insidiously rude of you to think that you, random pleb who has this ideological viewpoint, can ruin something that the broader population holds in such high regard.
Yep.
You think your opinion is more important than everyone else's value of that particular painting. Sorry, no, I won't.
No.
There's too many rants in me.
Like that was just going to be a perfect ending to a rant.
It was.
It's like making out, but not like it's just
it's called edging.
Yeah.
I'm edging.
That's exactly what it is. Have you seen? Moving on. Have you seen Just Stop Oil?
No.
It's a couple of comedians in the UK.
It sounds funny.
It's so good. There's 2 main videos out of it that I'm aware of. And we're not going to watch them because they're fairly long, but they go through this whole process. They got sick and tired of the disruption. They were early. They're actually on board all of this stuff, but they're like, we're sick and tired of disruption. We're sick and tired of these people behaving like petulant children. So they organised 2 different things. So they found out where Just Stop Oil were going to meet at like a coffee shop to gather before going out and blocking a road. And so they had a whole bunch of their fans and followers show up. And they formed a cordon. So when these people walked out of the door, they closed this cordon, and it was a human chain of people holding hands around them. It's
amazing.
Like for them to get out, they're going to have to make physical contact, which is technically assault. And so they just had to stand there, and they never got to disrupt anything. And all the people around them were just like, this is hilarious.
You would have seen that clip where I think it was an Italian man. He was trying to get his wife to hospital or something like that. And the Just Stop Oil people were sitting on the road, and he literally ran over them, kept pushing.
Yep.
And then they were like, oh my God, he ran us over. I'm like, well,
correct.
At that point, it's your personal decision to get run over because you had the choice to move.
You're on a road. You understand the problem. It has been described to you. All of the niceties have been done. Yeah. Now you are going to meet the front bumper of a car. One more thing with the Just Stop Oil guys. What they did then was they found out where a meeting was going to be, and there was going to be some meeting inside of a disused church hall, or like they'd become a community hall or something. So they grabbed some helium balloons and got some rape whistles and tied them to the helium balloons and set them off inside this high vaulted ceiling cathedral, and then released the balloons. So they all just floated up, and you got all these whistles, all these alarms inside the room. And it's just delicious because these people are so selfish and so callous about disrupting other people's lives. It was just really nice to see it get done to them.
So just one more thing on the LA riots. We've got Chrissy Teigen.
Of course.
Who's encouraging people to go and join this mass protest June 14th.
Yep.
Sorry. And so Chrissy Teigen has 42 million followers and she's encouraging people to go. These people, your Chrissy Teigens, need to be held accountable. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but that's incitement, in my opinion. That is...
Well, knowing that there is actual violence going on.
Correct. And she's cheering it on.
I'm a little bit allergic to being too cavalier with the incitement thing just because of my own personal experiences, you know. No, but legitimately, we can't be careless about just throwing that around. But yes, when you know that there are now cars being burned and all that sort of stuff, this isn't the sort of thing that I was encouraging people to attend here in Melbourne. This is a very different thing now.
I have so much to say about Chrissy Teigen. I'm not going to do it on this podcast, but I did want to read this by Sydney Watson.
Oh, yeah.
So she's written, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but all of this is going to get worse. Behind closed doors, people are getting angrier and angrier about what is happening in their countries. This is the quiet mobilization happening. Politicians make it worse by insisting mass immigration isn't an issue. They make it worse by not prioritizing their native populations. People are pissed. I am pissed. Everyone I know is pissed. It's only a matter of time before this morphs into something else. What that is, I can't say. But I know that what I'm feeling is probably shared a lot by people all over the world, and how I feel is getting pretty ugly. Now, I had a conversation with someone 4 days ago or so, and I'm not going to say who this person is, but we discussed the issue of bred racism. And what I mean by this is, most people, I believe, are inherently good. Most people, I believe, want everyone else to be okay and happy and thrive. Yep. But when it gets to a point where every day both your politicians and the media are lying to you about what you're seeing with your own eyes, you build resentment. Mm-hmm. And so right now, I said this on my stories a couple of days ago, I'm like, everything that's happening with youth crime is going to become a race war. Yep. That is where we're heading. And if people can't see that, I don't know how else to break it to you. It's no longer about teenagers getting put out on bail. This is about whites versus blacks. That's how this will get painted.
That's how it's getting whipped up, yes.
Yeah. And this is all avoidable. This is all avoidable. But the politicians and the media want this race war. They are cheering it on, whether subliminally or just...
Oh, but division serves them. The principle is very simple. If you deny people the ability to fix problems the nice way, they will try and fix them the nasty way. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. Why did I hit the streets protesting during COVID despite police crackdowns and repression, blah, blah, blah? Because when we asked nicely, they ignored us.
Yep.
Right? If you don't allow people to fix problems the nice way, then they resort to the nasty one. And when we're pushing people as hard as we are right now, and I'm on the record, I don't think immigration is the problem. I think perverse incentives are the problem. But yes, that is translated into a large number of people coming into Australia and mooching off the system. Combine that with a government that is not releasing land or building infrastructure fast enough, then we end up with the cost of living. Combine that with everything else that's going on. It's cost of living, lack of housing, overcrowding in certain places, although that's very localised and that's a planning law issue. But nevertheless, it is right now an issue because the planning laws are bad. You put all of that together and you've created a pressure cooker. Mm-hmm. And every time someone tries to speak up and say, hey, I'm not okay with this, how about X, Y, or Z? How about some kind of a solution, something to make it less bad, at least in their own experience? We shut them down. Mm-hmm. We say you're a racist. We say you're not allowed to say that. Excuse me. And so as a result, what we're doing is we're saying you're not allowed to fix this the nice way.
Yeah.
Well, what happens next?
Now, what I find really interesting about what I'm talking about, and I'm sort of jumping all over the point because I'm trying to paint this picture that I agree with Sydney. Sydney actually lives in Texas at the moment. Yeah. She's Aussie, but she's half-half. Yeah. I feel the same sentiment here, and I feel it around the youth crime thing. And Melbourne in particular, just our disdain for our government.
It's a case in point. If you're not going to fix the problem the nice way, i.e. through the police,
it's going to get there. Yeah. But what I taking that 30,000 foot view, I look at the way this has been reported in the press. Now, up until I want to say a couple of months ago, the press avoided any kind of information that alluded to them being African.
Yep.
Deliberately. They never said their names. They never showed the photos. It was always like some young person is on bail.
I'm pretty sure it was like an Amish European.
Yeah, it was always very nondescript. Yeah. And just recently, I have noticed, like if I Google the Machete attack in Melbourne, if we have a look at the photos.
Yeah, they're showing you pictures.
We can now see the colour of these people's skin. Yeah. Now, admittedly, some of them are still blurred out because they're, minors or whatever. Yeah. But, here you can see very clearly who these people are. Yeah. This is, again, the fatigue thing. And this is what I mean about the race war. And this is why you need to watch it. Because now we've had another situation. I was just pulling this up. Did you hear this story? The Bendigo man pleads guilty to bashing a fellow passenger on the evening train. 23-year-old. And if I can find the clip, of course I can't find the clip. It's going to be behind a paywall, isn't it? Let's see.
This is the one where it's the security camera from inside the train.
Yeah. And he had just left a mental hospital, and if I can go up here, people like, Carly, you are terrible at live Googling. Probably. It was a Bendigo train. Oh, God. Here we go. Is this too...
Anyway.
So my point is now they're showing his face, his name.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. So you can see it here. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's behind a paywall.
Yeah. But they're allowing us to actually know that information.
This is what I mean. This is why we are heading towards a race war.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're doing this. It's deliberately to sow division.
Yeah.
It is so that then you can see the whites who are going to start to retaliate, and we are inherently racist.
Yeah, we're seeing all of that. Can I just sorry, just a quick aside.
Yes.
Am I correct in believing that you figured out how to put the system back onto auto switching from your laptop, and you're now controlling everything from your laptop?
Did you figure it out?
I just watched it go back to auto switching. Well, now it's not on auto switching right now, so you need to switch that back on. And I just watched the color of the button change. Okay, so two things on that. Firstly, we're not even allowing governments that do want to fix these problems to actually fix them. So, for example, in Queensland, where they've tried to pass, I may have successfully, I need to look into this, but they're trying to pass adult crime, adult time laws.
That did pass.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what they campaigned on.
Then the UN come out and say, oh, this is human rights abuse.
Yes.
Right. So now, even when a government is trying to fix it the nice way,
yeah,
other powers come in. Now, of course, the UN doesn't have the power to stop them, but they're calling them out and trying to cause trouble for them.
Of course.
And so, if we just keep on stopping these problems from being solved the nice way, sooner or later someone goes, well, fine, I'll do it myself. And that's not the nice way anymore. But also, one of the problems that arose with them not, and it's so often the cover-up is worse than the crime. When the media wouldn't talk about the colour of someone's skin unless they were white, well, another truck has been driven through a crowd in France. We don't have a description of the driver. Oh, okay, well then I'm pretty sure I've already got an idea of who this person is, because I'm fairly sure if they were the local white Baptist pastor, I would already know what they had for lunch in the 6th day of 3rd grade. Yeah. Right? And so the silence becomes an admission in and of itself. And so often what we see is every well-intentioned effort to not disclose information almost invariably leads to a worse place than if they'd just given us the information to start with.
I just realised I showed a clip last week about that Mustang that was in that horrific accident.
Yes.
It wasn't a stolen car.
No, I read about that.
Yeah, so it was...
Female passenger passed away and male driver who
Ashdep Kaur. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't. But just like recklessly speeding.
Yeah.
And now her parents rightfully want justice, but he's been released on bail because, of course, it's Victoria. Everyone's out on bail. But, I mean, pretty horrific. Like, look at this. Look at that.
Like laws of physics, dude. Laws of physics.
It's always the passenger, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because we were referencing potentially it was stolen. It wasn't. It was this.
Go to a racetrack. You can do track days in cars. I used to do track days in my motorbike. I mean, I also did really dumb things on the road on the motorbike. But the point of the motorbike was if someone was going to get killed, it was going to be me. Yeah. Not...
The issue here is, again, like, as I said, prior to a couple of months ago, we wouldn't have known he was Indian. There'd be no way. There's this weird transparency which is making me go, hang on a minute, this is deliberate.
Well,
or this is something shifted. I don't know.
It could be a part of the collapsing of peak woke and the retreat from peak
fatigue.
Woke. That fatigue kicking in. I mean, you are naturally inclined to be a bit more conspiratorial than I am. And I tend to be a little bit more Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is often the correct one. And why attribute to conspiracy what can also be attributed to incompetence.
A teenager. Sorry.
That was loud. But also, on the occasions when I am wrong, and it does happen, it's very rare, but it does happen. No, it's very rare. On the occasions when I'm wrong, it's usually because I was not conspiratorial enough. Almost every time that I've been proven wrong, it's because I was not conspiratorial enough.
The most entertaining outcome is usually the most...
is the one that you want to be true.
I'm going to play you this quickly again. Just another day in Melbourne. Where are we?
Has been ambushed in a terrifying machete attack in Melbourne's northeast.
Oh, this is that
He
servo.
arrived at a service station to fill up, but was set upon within seconds of getting out of his vehicle.
A late-night fuel stop that turned violent in a matter of seconds. passenger inside this Holden ambushed by 2 armed thugs at Doreen's United petrol station just before 10 last night. The victim was slashed on the arm with a machete almost 2 weeks after the sale of the weapon was outlawed in Victoria.
Oh, no.
The criminals are always going to do what criminals are going to do.
2 people from the Holden
No
rap.
shit, Sherlock. Okay, couple of things. I don't know anything besides what we've just seen, but I'm going to make a couple of predictions. Firstly, the perpetrator and the victims were known to each other. This was some sort of a gang-related thing. They weren't after the car. They weren't stealing the car. They were going after the person. When the guy ran away, they continued to chase him. They weren't interested in the other person who was in the car. That person got out and left. This was a personal attack targeted at the individual. Secondly, how blunt was that machete?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I wouldn't even eat my dinner with something that you could hit somebody with and do that little damage. Thirdly, go to fucking fencing school or something and learn how to use a knife.
Yeah.
He had every advantage in the world, and that blade literally bounced off his victim. Like, have enough self-respect as a criminal mastermind to go and learn how to use a knife properly.
Interestingly, now you don't hear me often come out in defense of mainstream media, but I have been watching Channel 7, and it's only Channel 7 who is focusing mostly on this. Channel 9 still very like whitewashy, very politically correct. So Channel 10 don't even bother.
Yeah.
Channel 7 and your mate, who I utterly detest, Paul Dowsley, if I ever see you in person again, mate, I will spit in your face, and I mean that.
Don't tell
no
Carly
respect
when
for
you're
him.
coming over to my place for cigars, okay? Just don't let her know that you're going to be there.
I will never, ever respect that human. However, I do find it really interesting that someone has got a memo to start to crack down on this stuff because Channel 7's reporting has been relatively truthful. And they are often putting out things showing these machete attacks. They're showing faces. They're saying the names. But what I found really interesting is on Channel 7, they're putting it out as soon as it's happening. It's like
it's in real time.
There was a Dan Murphy where there was a machete attack. The Caroline Springs shopping centre last weekend was put into lockdown. So what I'm interested in here, and this might be me being a conspiracy theorist, there seems to be a lot of momentum around this. Like we had it with like Herald Sun, and of course anyone that's on the left will call that Murdoch, just Murdoch bias. Yeah. So we're not allowed to take the Herald Sun seriously. But they've had their crime siege little thing going for ages.
And things, yep.
So they've had that. Then we had Fifi Box on her morning talk show. They did the change.org.
Yes. I do know about that one.
They did the change.org petition. And famously, Fifi was like, I'm not having Jacinta Allen on our podcast because she is not doing anything. Yep. And then in the end, that petition, I think it got somewhere in like 40,000 signatures, relatively small.
But it's change.org, so it doesn't have any impact.
No, it doesn't, but it got the attention. So Jacinta did go on the radio, and she said that to be fair, she admitted she'd got it wrong.
That was where we had just predicted that she would never admit that she got it wrong, and
Correct.
She did actually go on air and admit that she got it wrong.
The only reason I give these people that little bit of leeway is because, okay, so you've done one thing, good, thank you.
Correct.
So she acknowledged it, but then it's only gotten worse, or has the reporting now become transparent? Was this already happening and we only saw little bits of it, or is it now getting to a point where you can't gaslight people anymore? Because as I've said this every podcast, every time we talk about it, the problem is now undeniable. It is under your nose. It is, you cannot avoid it anymore.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that through. How would we know, how would we discern one from the other? And the answer is we really kind of can't. We do know that it was underreported. We do know that incidents were happening. When I lived in Dandenong, and this is now going back 5 years, when we moved out. So I lived in Dandenong sort of from 9 years ago to 5 years ago. And we would get home, we would drive the car, and we would go past, oh dear, I think it's going to unplug from the wall if you pull it any further.
Oh no, that's all right.
We would go past cordoned off streets, and we'd look down there and there's a sheet over someone's body.
Yeah.
In the middle of the street. And there were three distinct groups. There was the Afghans, the Sudanese, and the Islanders. They were the three kind of distinct groups. And you'd go out for a walk to go down to get some Afghan from the local shop to eat for dinner, and the tension would be palpable between these groups. And they'd ignore you. You didn't exist. You weren't a part of their little feud. But there'd be one group on this corner, one group on that corner, another group further up the street. And there were regular attacks, regular stabbings, and yes, dead bodies in the streets. I never saw one of them in the news. Not one of those times. And this is full-on police response, street closed down, sheet over someone's body in the street. We're talking multiple actual deaths. And it's in the statistics. You can go to the statistics and you'll find it, but it wasn't in the media. So we know that this stuff was being underreported.
Yes.
So we can definitely tick that box. But is it also getting worse? I tend to think that it's getting more brazen.
Yes.
I think that's what
I think brazen is a good point, because they now feel like they can do it because they know, even if they get arrested, they're back out on bail. They don't care.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is Tim Pool actually shared this the other day. I was talking about how, as I said, we're going to see retribution. We're going to see the vigilantes. And Tim Pool shared a clip a couple of days ago, basically showing regular people in a shopping centre. There was a African man trying to steal liquor. This was in America. This was not in Australia.
I think I saw the video of this.
And the people in the store prevented him. And he was trying to resist. He was spitting in their faces. He was kicking and screaming, and he got away with nothing.
Yeah.
And then we saw another clip of that happen where it was an African man who was the security guard was stopping a woman from shoplifting.
Yeah.
So now it's getting to the point where they're like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
literally,
right.
we're not letting this happen
That's
anymore.
right. And that's what has to happen. The phrase "go fuck yourself" needs to become much more widely used.
Yeah.
And
I get told off when I swear on this podcast.
well,
you don't.
But I do it.
Sexism.
Well, okay, fine. No, it's because I really am better than you. It's not prejudice. So
Sorry, I'll take my role back in the kitchen.
yeah, where is my sourdough?
Lucky I don't have
Where's I had to bring my own damn banana.
Lucky I don't have any petrol in the garage, mate.
No, but honestly, what we've got is a world where people have not experienced enough consequences.
Correct.
And this has started when they were children. They weren't being properly raised. They weren't being properly disciplined. They weren't being allowed to experience the consequences of their mistakes and their failures and their errors of judgment. And so they grow up to believe that there are no consequences.
Or that they somehow have a get out of jail free pass.
Yeah, that it's different for them. There's rules for everybody else, but there aren't for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've got to go one or two ways. Ideally, both. I'd love to see us do both. I would love to see us stop saving people from themselves. Okay? You want to stand in the middle of a highway and block it off? Whoever runs you down, I will buy a beer.
Yeah.
Right now, okay, try and go at non-fatal speed. Do your best, but if you happen to, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'll buy you a beer afterwards.
Yeah.
Because these people need to learn. And it's not just that individual who's going to learn, right? You strike a fool and the simple will increase in learning. It's in Proverbs. Only a couple of these people need to go tumbling down the street in order for the rest of them to go, that's not such a good idea anymore. Only a few home invaders need to get a shotgun slug to the face before the others go, that can happen.
Yeah, I actually don't like that.
Right.
Well, we've seen when they do get humiliated or when they do get held accountable, they scream blue murder like, That's what it takes. And I don't think we're at the point where your average Aussie is going to do that. I'm telling you now, if there's an opportunity to hold one of these kids accountable, I will do it. Yeah. I'm not saying come back to my house because God, God willing.
It's difficult to podcast with you when you're in prison because unfortunately, we know Victoria Police are functionally speaking, at an individual level, this is not true. They don't want to be. But as an institution, they are on the side of the criminals.
Correct.
Institutionally, Victoria Police are there to protect criminals from victims, not the other way around. But this comes back to your old mate Bukele, the humiliation side of things. Within a culture like this gang culture that we're seeing rising across Melbourne, humiliation is a very powerful weapon.
Yeah.
It's not a powerful weapon against a Dero who's trying to steal a bottle of whiskey. Humiliation, who cares? They don't care. They've already hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
But amongst that particular subculture, humiliation is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, absolutely, they need to be publicly humiliated.
I actually have the solution to all of our problems.
Oh, I cannot. You've held out until week 23, podcast 23 to solve all of my problems?
I mark my words. If social media was turned off for just a week, most of this would resolve itself because a lot of this is clout chasing. A lot of this is fueled by people living in echo chambers. And if they didn't have access to that for like 7 days, watch how quickly they stop caring. I really do think that's it.
You woke up and chose violence today. Turning social media off?
100%.
Who could live in such a world, Carly? You'd be back into the dark ages. It'd be like the 1990s.
Imagine all the free time we'd have. Jesus.
Do we have to start wearing parachute pants again? Like Nike pumps will become like the thing.
Yes, and we could start skateboarding again and listening to good music.
Okay,
you know?
if we can get back into like early Eminem, maybe a bit of Blink 182 and that stuff.
Think about it though. Like
right. I could live with that.
Actually, I'd go back as far as saying remove smartphones. When the internet became permanently accessible in our pockets, I think that's when things shifted.
The smarter the phone, the dumber the person. That's why I always have the latest phone in my pocket.
Do you know what's interesting? This is tangent.
Tangent time.
I'm going to turn that into a song. That's why I got you to do it before, because I'm going to clip it and then I can have a button and be like...
we're going to set new records for the least popular song on Spotify.
No, but that's why it'll catch. So because I'm overstimulated, I have got too many things going on, all these modern problems, like first world problems.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling a lot with my short-term memory, like retention of these things. Like I'm reading these really dense academic papers.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling to be like, well, what was that thing I read? I have resorted to good old-fashioned recipe cards, like flashcards.
Yeah. I use them as cue cards when I'm doing emceeing an event or something.
Yeah. So I went and bought myself, just from Office Works, nothing fancy. And I've been writing key things and key words. So words that I might have come across that, I know what it means, but if you were to ask me to give you the definition, I'd be like, oh, well, it kind of means blah. I was like, this is ridiculous. I need to retain this information. Analog works. I have always been a note taker. I'm a write things down kind of girl. I begrudgingly use my Google Calendar. I like old school ways of doing it. And I do feel there is going to be a point where those of us who had a foot in the analog world are going to go back to some of those systems. We're already seeing it with a lot of things. Because we went the digital path and we went, actually, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It solved a problem, but I don't really like it.
Okay, so people got overstimulated, and then we had that craze with those really super detailed grown-up colouring books, right? Now,
they're still around.
They are still around. Now, what that is a time sink, and it forces you to focus. It slows your world down because you're spending time on a singular task that is quite precise. You have to give it your focus, right? But actually, if you think about it, a lot of the old world skills, sewing, cross stitch and so forth, even cooking depending on what you're cooking to varying degrees, leather work, woodwork, a lot of the shed skills for men, even cleaning as a repetitive task. Using older school equipment, you're not pressing a button on your smartphone so that your robot vacuum cleaner goes and does it for you, but actually sweeping out the room is a methodical, repetitive process that requires either a lot of focus.
It's meditative.
It's meditative. It puts you into a sort of almost a trance-like state of this repetitive activity. Now, what's interesting is that craze for the colouring books has died away. It was always going to. It was always just going to be a fad. And yes, they are still around. And for those of you that get value out of them, good for you. I'm not decrying it. But what appears to me to be taking its place is actually a return to those old skills.
I have said this for ages. We are going to go back to very localized living out of, I want to say nostalgia. I think it's just going to be like a new fashion. But actually what I think it is a craving to feel purpose again in ourselves.
But also people are discovering that sitting there and hand sewing that thing that you wanted to make, or sitting there and sanding that piece of woodwork that you're putting together in the shed has this wonderful effect on your
Is this where I talk
headspace.
about my crochet?
Sure, you can talk about your crochet.
So I had this thing that I started in COVID, and it was because I was honestly bored. And I was working for an agency, and our biggest client was Lincraft. And a lot of what I photographed for them was yarns, crochet stuff, like arts and craft.
Yeah.
And, at the end, they'd be like, oh, you can come buy stuff from here and, the employee sales and all that sort of stuff. And there was this particular, this random story, but it's a good story, I promise. There was this ball of yarn that was variegated, which means it changes color. Blue, and blue's my favorite color, but it was like this particular, it was my shade of blue. It was Dexter blue.
Yeah. I
was like, God, that's really pretty. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I just feel drawn to this yarn.
I need to have it.
Yeah, one of those things. I was like, I just feel drawn to it. And little did I know we were going to go into lockdown a week later. And so I bought up a box of this yarn, and I think in there was 30, because you had to buy the bulk, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, oh, I might use that one day. I had knitted previously.
Sure.
Anyway, lockdown hits, and I'm like, well, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. What am I going to do for 2 weeks? I'm going to crochet. That's how it started. Anyway, lockdown, as we know, ended up being a lot longer. But I ended up enjoying it so much because when you're crocheting, you got to use both hands.
Yeah.
And you can't really look away because if you do, you stuff up.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
notice it in the pattern. And like it was frustrating because I couldn't quite get started. And then eventually got started, and then I eventually got proficient. And so there's a blanket that I've got downstairs. It's queen size. That's how big it is. And I made that with those 30 balls of yarn.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
It's 5 years old.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's G's taste, but I'm so proud of it because
Yeah.
it's huge and it's really warm. And so much so, the next year I made another one. And then that's the one that I have in my office that I put on my lap if I'm getting a little bit chilly sitting still.
Yeah.
And then I made my best friend one. And so crochet, like I'm not trying to be anything other. I'm not doing it for sale.
Yeah.
It's just, it's an opportunity for me to sit there doing like a simple task.
Yeah.
I get something out of it and I don't pick up my bloody phone.
Yeah.
And I can do it for like 3 hours until the point where my hands start to feel a bit sore.
Yeah.
But you get something out of it. And I imagine it's the same woodworking, leatherworking, you know, and I feel like because we outsource so much stuff to China, we can get it cheap in China, we can just buy it.
Yeah.
Nothing has value because you haven't put any time or effort into it.
Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Yeah. And I've said this a long time ago. I feel like, you know, we went through the sourdough craze, the banana bread craze. I think there's a lot of people who are enjoying, you know, pickling or fermenting and growing your own food.
Yep.
Not because like this has been called
chickens.
Well, this is the thing, you know, they're going to call this right-wing extremism. And I don't think it is that. I think it's connection. I think it's simplifying.
Yeah.
I think it's finding something that you feel proud of in yourself. And I've said this a billion times on this podcast. This is how you cultivate self-esteem.
Well, you know that baking sourdough is a gateway to domestic terrorism.
I've been told.
It's well established.
Yeah.
So you're on your way, which is great to see. You know,
Yeah.
Join the club. Welcome. Next, you'll get chickens. I'm already there. I'm at
Well,
the
no,
chickens.
I've gone one further than the sourdough. I've discovered that I want to start milling my own flour. So I'm currently in the investigation
You're
process.
becoming my brother.
Am I?
So my brother studied and researched different milling machines, and he found one that was a cold milling machine that didn't add heat. It didn't produce friction and like stones and what have you.
Yeah.
And this thing sounded like a jet engine trying to take off. It just, he would turn it on in the house. He was a teenager, so still living at home. I was living at home. He would turn this thing on. The whole house is just resonating with the sound of this thing. Then he'd feed the grains into it, and they all just got to get smashed on these little blades. And so, but yes, he would get his flour that would come out of that, and then he would bake these loaves of bread that, I mean, look, eventually he got to the point where they were edible.
Yeah, okay.
But it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, I must say.
Well, there's a finesse that comes with practice.
So yes, I mean, you're only really catching up with the weirdness in my family. Call me when you're growing your own wheat. That's something that I've certainly never done.
No, that might be
that's next level.
Bit cost prohibitive, but
That's
But do you know what? This actually another tangent. Oh, all the tangents time.
Have we done anything other than tangents this episode?
We've kind of
done
been talking
like
about
two
stuff.
stories.
No, we've done three.
Three
on my
I'm
list.
so sorry. It's an hour and 55 minutes in, and we've covered 3 stories.
No, 4 actually because we did the machete stuff.
Okay.
No, well, you've made me lose my
It's a
thought.
story of
Oh
a
no,
half
so
hour.
it's you know how you just pop up random things on YouTube and you're like,
Sure.
oh yeah, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
There's this new genre that I'm obsessed with. That's just watching people restore old things from the 19th century.
Okay.
And so what it is like something that someone may have used to like a 1850s toaster
Oh, yes.
or like an 1870s clock. Like, I don't know, just random artifacts that are all rusty.
Yeah.
They pull them all apart and then they sandblast them and they put it all back together. And then I'm like, God, we made things pretty back then.
There was a lot more flourish.
There was, but I think there's like, and why are these channels becoming popular? Because people are A, interested, B, learning something, and C, it's interesting to do for yourself. So
And it's peaceful. I know the genre you're talking about, and you know I'm fascinated by mechanical things, and for me I think one of the greatest triumphs of humanity is the internal combustion engine. I just think the internal combustion engine is just one of the most phenomenal, revolutionary engineering marvels of all of human history, right up there with the microprocessor. So, you know, my son and I, we do little model engine kits and things like that, and I'm looking at actually moving towards ones that actually function. They really actually work, but they're phenomenally expensive. So I want to buy one that is actually a good one. And so I'm watching YouTube videos of the various competing kits getting made by different people.
yeah.
And I just sit there, and my youngest, she's 2 years old. She'll come and sit on the couch and she'll just watch as people are just like clicking little bits in and just kind of putting it all together. And like I could sit there and watch that all day.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that restoration channel, they're like restoring a 1910 toaster. I'm like, I'm in. Let's watch it.
But there is something beautiful about that. I mean, and there's been live stream channels for a long time, and people will point a camera at their fish tank. Channel 31, the Melbourne Community TV, used to have the fish tank at night. There was one famous one where there was I think a bird built a nest on the windowsill of a high-rise office building, and they happened to pick a windowsill that was outside of a television station executive area. Yeah. So they pointed a camera at it, and they live streamed this nest as it was being built, and then eggs were being laid, and then the chicks were born. And they just had some other, this is America, this has got a bajillion channels. They just had a dedicated live stream channel. And then one day, one of the chicks falls out of the nest, and the switchboard for the station got completely jammed with phone calls of people calling the station to tell them one of the chicks has fallen out of the nest. You have to go and fix it. You have to go and rescue the bird.
You said fell off the building. I was like, oh no.
Well, fell out of the nest. I don't know. I've never seen
Committed.
the shot. But so the story goes that there were people who would just sit there.
They were invested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah. I think we need that. But anyway, stop tangenting.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's all me, isn't it? It's all my fault.
I found this funny. This has got nothing to do with the LA. Well, it does, but the LA riots, the Apple store got looted.
Yeah.
But thanks to Apple, I don't think we need sound. But they've tracked the phones.
Oh wow.
So all the devices that got stolen, Apple's like, please return these to the Apple Tower Theatre or whatever it's called.
Well, it just goes to show that if you own Apple devices, they could be turned off centrally at any moment in time.
Well, I think if you're stealing the ones that are like display stock install, they would.
I don't know. Are you sure that's not just your phone at any moment in time?
I've
Carlos
got nothing
J. Soda,
to hide.
You have expressed the wrong opinion on the internet. Your phone has been disabled for the next 14 hours.
Anyway, let's get to this. I've got a lot to say about this. Where do we start?
Good old Greta.
Hang on. Do you want to do the?
Okay, let's do this because this is LA.
Yeah.
The media are reporting all of a sudden they're doing these things about. Did you know how destructive rubber bullets can be? I put one up on my socials yesterday. Did you know they're actually called less lethal because they can kill? Yeah, we know that. Thank you for putting this up. This is Matt Lawson, a guy who he was the very first person that I'm aware of to be shot with rubber bullets during the anti-lockdown protests. He was not being aggressive. He was shot in the stomach at very, very close range. He's had, I believe, 4 rounds of surgery.
That is a huge hematoma.
Yeah.
That is
and it's
proper
deep.
internal bleeding.
It is, yes. Massive internal bleeding. I believe they had to remove organs, and he had 4 rounds of surgery to progressively fix and repair the damage that was done by that rubber bullet.
Has he sued Vic Pol?
Not to my knowledge. That is the actual rubber bullet. Someone collected it on the day, maybe him. I met him about 10 minutes after, on the street. I met him about 10 minutes after he was shot. He was so high on adrenaline. It was like he was on drugs, and I can tell you he was not. He's not that kind of guy.
No, I can imagine your body's just in overdrive.
But it was like he was on drugs. He was just peaking out of his brain, and it would have just been the adrenaline, the pain, all of that. That's what a rubber bullet looks like, and they are absolutely called less lethal because, there's plenty of instances where they have killed people before. But all of a sudden the media care because it was a journalist who got hit in the leg.
I just want to talk about a hematoma quickly. Sure. I haven't been shot by a rubber bullet, but I think I've showed you this photo.
You have had a building land on your head. You probably can talk about,
This is different. I'll show you quickly. I'll pull it up as I'm telling you the story. So I like skateboarding, and I bought myself a cruiser board, and I was teaching myself.
Weren't you cool? You used to be cool, Carly. What happened to you?
I still have it, but after I show you this, you'll be like, oh, I see why you don't do it anymore. And I was just having fun with some friends, and I was on some really smooth concrete, just cruising around. And I was trying to do this thing where you sort of stand on the board and stand off the board, stand on the board, stand off the board. Anyway, I just happened to slip. And I literally fell from standing upright to on the ground on concrete. And this is what happened.
Oh.
If you want to show the camera.
Well, yeah, but can you, I can't see a thing. There we go. That is a leg, believe it or not.
That is my leg with a bruise from my hip bone to my knee.
That is a leg.
Huge hematoma. The reason I brought this up is that pain, I thought I'd snapped my femur.
I could believe you would think that, yes.
So what happened to me is literally I was upright and I just fell onto concrete like that and my legs slapped the concrete.
Wow.
And obviously there's nowhere for your body to go. So it
can't disperse. It just,
So I honestly, when I thought I had snapped my femur, I could not walk.
Yeah.
And I was howling in pain, when you say adrenaline. And somehow I got myself up and I was dragging my leg. I was convinced I had snapped my leg in half. Yeah. And, my friends at the time were like, oh my God, do we need to go to hospital? I was like, I've done something.
Yeah.
And the bruise formed, I bruised pretty bad anyway, but it bruised pretty immediately.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought that up is that hematoma was so debilitating. I was in excruciating pain for weeks. I couldn't even go near that spot. I couldn't put water on it because it was, even like just my clothing touching it, it was like someone was drilling into my leg. It was so painful. That on your abdomen, where all your internal organs are, I can't even imagine.
He was broken inside and out.
Yeah, like I can empathize only from the leg point of view.
Yeah.
Like that you got to think about it. Like that's where your stomach is. That's where your
It's your
intestines
core.
are.
Everything.
Your
You cannot
spleen.
do anything without engaging your abdominals. You can't
It's
do
just
anything.
insane. And I want to bring up one more because the reason I asked you about Vic Pol is this is a friend of mine's leg. And so she got struck on the left leg, as you can see there. And you can see the bruising. I believe she said this was the day after, but because it's quite yellow, it might have been a couple of days after.
Yeah.
So she said it was about 50 meters away. And that's her leg today. So
What's the time lag between those two pictures?
5 years.
Okay, right. So
Yeah.
today. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so she actually has a lawsuit with Victoria Police at the moment.
Yeah.
And because she's the same thing as Matt Lawson, she's got ongoing problems.
Yeah.
So they're saying that I believe she said it's something to do with her lymph nodes. So like ongoing issues, that's from a rubber bullet. And Vic Pol, I'm not too sure. I don't think I could speak too much about it, but I believe like she's having to prove she was at the protest and prove that it was the rubber bullet, all that sort of stuff. And I'll keep you up to date. There's obviously, it's a live thing, so I can't talk about it.
So one of the things that Victoria Police did was they, at the shrine in particular, they shot a lot of them. If you watch the footage, a lot of them are shooting angled towards the ground. And in their minds, that makes it okay. They can live with themselves a little bit better when they're skipping them off the ground because, I wasn't shooting directly at them, right? What happens can we go back to the other picture of Matt Lawson where he had the projectile above? So what he's holding there in his fingers is the bit that flies.
Yeah.
So there's a canister behind that has the charge and everything that propels it out. That's the bit that flies. The bit that is meant to impact you is the rubber part. And that then disperses some of the impact, right? It's still blunt force trauma, yes, but it's
But is
not.
this
it's
plastic,
not hard.
this bottom bit, or is it metal?
The casing behind is plastic. Now that, if you shoot it at the ground and it skips, it will tumble.
Yeah.
If you go back to the leg, on the left, I don't know, but at face value, I look at that and I wonder whether that's actually a cut from the plastic casing of the rubber bullet
Or like,
projectile,
because that looks like a blister.
where it is ricocheted or reflected off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
horrific.
I don't know. I'm just looking at it, but in the leg, typically, they might have shot at the ground and had them skipping off the ground.
Yeah.
And then they can tumble and they can hit you with the plastic.
Yeah, like just horrific. So I put up something on my Instagram where I was like, cry me a river, basically. No one in Melbourne was outraged about this when it happened during COVID. But now all of a sudden, because it's a reporter that got hit, everyone's like, oh, woe to me. And, the Prime Minister's speaking on it and everything. I'm sorry, but this happened to Melburnian civilians and not one of you, not you guys watching, you probably all spoke up about it.
The media couldn't have cared less. They cheated on.
Yeah.
Now, it actually gets even funnier for me, and I do find this darkly funny, like dark sort of, gallows humor, whatever you want to call it. The media, I then saw an article having just watched them crying about her being shot on purpose, if I may say.
Yeah, they took aim.
There's a lot, but also she knew it was coming.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, it is my opinion, having watched all the videos, she knew that was coming, and that, in my opinion, that was an attention-seeking tactic. But I then watched the media crying a river about chemical weapons. Our reporter was caught up in a chemical weapons attack. And I instantly went, well, yeah, tear gas, obviously, and just, trying to hype it up. And so, I clicked through to the article, I scrolled down, tear gas.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So when it's used on us, it's crowd control.
Yeah.
When it's used on a reporter, or when a reporter gets caught up in it, it's a chemical weapon.
I'll see if I can find that quick.
So ridiculous.
Grandmother.
And I will be doing a video on this.
Pepper spray.
Oh, to the face.
Yeah.
I mean, pepper spray, tear gas are two different things, but
Melbourne.
yes. I mean, that's a chemical weapon attack directly into her eyeballs.
See if I can find
this. The lady in red.
Yeah, this one.
Watch Battleground Melbourne if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I mean, literally just lying on her back, having been thrown to the ground. And I love how, scroll back to the top for a second for me. Freedom in air quotes, freedom protesters wrongly accuse a police officer of pepper spraying elderly protester when he wasn't even there and was at home caring for his newborn baby.
Damn those inanimate objects again.
Oh, I tell you what. So which outlet is this? Which absolute
Daily Mail.
rag? Daily Mail. Okay, so sorry. I was there that day. That lady in red, who I crossed paths with during the protest, who was, I believe, 70 at the time of the attack, went to a Macedonian church in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, who was pep sprayed in the face by 2 officers, including, by the way, the highest-ranking officer on the scene, who was setting an example for all of his subordinates to follow. That didn't happen, according to the Daily Mail.
No, this is a psyop.
Amazing.
Our friend Abby Chatfield has come out
Oh, friend of the show. Love her so much.
and said that why haven't we still got it through our thick heads that lockdowns save lives and those measures were needed. It's not the same thing. I'm sorry, Abby, but can we shoot you with a rubber bullet?
Yeah.
Can we get your perspective once we've done this to you, and then you can have a chat?
This is just the absolute out-of-touch privilege. She has no idea what an ivory tower she's in. And she also clearly has no idea about the data, because the vast majority of people locked down were not at risk from COVID. They could have gone about their business, caught COVID, and would have been completely fine. We know that from the data. We had age stratified by data that was age stratified by comorbidity out of Sweden, Israel, and Italy. At the time that the lockdown started, we already had that data. We already knew the vast majority of the population did not need to be protected from COVID, and we could have done a much better job of protecting those few that needed it if we hadn't actually impoverished the entire population. But people like Abby Chatfield make their money online, and they don't really care. They don't really need it.
But.
Oh, I know. We go. Oh.
Do you like my comment?
Well, I hope you got a lot of food in the. I hope you got a lot of food in the, yes, that is a good comment, in the pantry, because we're going to be here for another, what was it, 570 something days that it went for, the saga.
Guys.
Just change the record, guys. Change the record.
I love the photo though. Like, look at this doomsday bloody. The only thing. Oh, are they wearing a? They are wearing a gas mask.
masks.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did I say earlier was a phrase that we need to start using a lot more?
Munted.
Well, there was that. We talked about munted. That was off air. That was when I said we should be recording this.
Munted.
We were talking about munted and retarded, and which one was more suitable for a particular circumstance. No, what I said before was the phrase that we need to start using is "go fuck yourself."
Yes.
Go fuck yourself, Herald Sun. Go fuck yourself, government. Go fuck yourself, anyone that wants me to lock down again. Absolutely 100%
Get
go fuck
fucked,
yourself.
you absolute clowns.
No, not doing it.
But this is actually like, hang on, let me just go over here. This is something that I think is really important, because we know this, people feel this way, I know all that. Now is the time to vocalize it. Now, a lot of people stand behind people like yourself, me, Rukshan, Avi. That's great. Now is the time for you to say it to people. When people go, oh, have you heard this? Get fucked.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's specifically go fuck yourself. It is
like,
it's an important phrase.
Yeah, like not buying into it, not participating, not interested.
Yep.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. You don't get to fuck me.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
All right, you can do what you want. You're not
100%. And that's what it needs to get to. People need to get to the point where you literally tell these people spreading this like fear porn, these little doom goblins, and go fuck off.
Yep, go fuck yourself. Yep, 100%.
So back to here.
We're no longer a G-rated podcast, by the way.
Not today. Your supporters will be most offended.
The ladies are clutching their pearls as we speak.
All right, we need to talk about the head doom goblin herself, Miss Greta.
Yes.
In doing so, I am going to need you to pass me my charging cable, and we're going to have to reconfigure this desk.
Work a minute ago.
No, it just didn't reach. But we can.
Haven't you got a PowerPoint on your side? Go get your own
power.
power.
There's one just there.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna go and solve some technical problems for Carly.
Yes, you are my little bitch.
Wow.
Hey, no, this works. There you go. Or is it plugged in? Yeah.
I just stood up.
Hang on. No, it's not. It must be.
Yeah, it's pulled out of things.
Sorry, guys.
All right, let me just solve a problem, because apparently
there's one there, I think.
To last for an entire Carl J. Soda podcast.
If you saw how many tabs I have open, you'd understand why. There we go. Look at how amazing is this that the HDMI cable's on this side, but the power's on this side.
And we need them opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Always.
Okay, so our favourite little doom goblin, that was Rita Panani's, but I've stolen it. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Insidious doom goblin.
Yeah. So this is
Bring us up to speed.
Well, okay, so her flotilla, what a grandiose name, was intercepted by the Israeli military. Now, she has said that that's illegal. We're in international waters. You can't do that. Actually, blockading enemies during times of military action is completely normal and part of the rules of war. Sorry, Greta, you're wrong on that one. They then were taken into custody. That's not exactly being taken hostage or prisoner of war. They were looked
She was
after
kidnapped.
very well, apparently. So
It was dehumanizing.
and look, they tried to subject her to torture because they ordered her, in fact, to watch a video of the Hamas atrocities that took place on October 7th, a couple of years ago, that kicked off this latest round of this conflict. And she refused, which I think is very telling. I think that in itself speaks volumes about her and where she's at. I would assume she's never seen it. I would assume that she's probably dismissed it as being overblown or propaganda or AI or who knows what. And so they've shipped her off back to France, I believe it was. But the others that were with her are currently still in custody, refusing to leave, apparently. So but I think basically what they've been told is leave the area, or like if you're going to try and keep getting into Gaza, then we're not going to let you go. We're only going to let you go if you get on a train and F off.
Two things.
Yeah.
The most obvious part of this that tells you that Greta is either like a paid antagonist or she's just...
Well, she's paid by the attention. It's
or
an
she's just an
eyeball
idiot.
economy. Yeah.
Is that they were detained and she was so quick to sign those deportation papers.
Yeah.
She couldn't spend more than like a couple of hours in detention. She had that's how much she cared about the cause.
Yeah.
That like I think there's 12 of them. There's still 8 of them detained. The rest of them were deported immediately on a plane.
Yeah.
And she is that beholden to her cause. She cares that deeply that the second she could get out, she did.
Yeah.
And she left the rest behind.
So let's reflect on the fact that we've got people here in Victoria like Monica Smith who voluntarily chose to spend 21 days in solitary confinement rather than submit to the evil will of the particular magistrate in her case. And then she was willing to risk going back to prison in order to defend her database. That's what principles look like. We've got someone like Moira Redeeming who, having been defamed, then stood her ground, risked her own personal bankruptcy if the court case hadn't gone her way in order to try and bring some level of justice. We've got so many examples of people that stand on principle, stand their ground and put themselves at risk. Greta never put herself at risk. And this is why, in my opinion, they should have let her get in.
Yeah.
They should have let her actually have that moment of, oh, fuck.
Yeah. I think sometimes you need to scare people silly. I don't wish anything bad on Greta. I do think...
I just wish she'd go away.
I wish that too. I wish people would stop giving her attention. She's a 22-year-old in a very privileged position.
Come back in 20 years with some life experience and then tell me how you see the world.
Outside academia.
Yeah, real life experience. I'm not interested in what you think right now because all you're doing is regurgitating what you've been told.
Yeah, I think, like, again... There's things about a war zone. I've told this story before, early days of the podcast. A guy I know is a war photographer, and he was in Afghanistan, I think, for 10 years in Kabul, and photographed a lot. And you can imagine what he saw.
That would leave a mark, yeah.
And unfortunately, he is a lefty now, and it's very hard to follow him. I find it very... But, you know, I followed him during the war and his coverage. And
you can still respect his work and all of that.
His photos were insane. You know, like... You talk about seeing stuff. I feel like with a lot of these people, again, I don't want them to come into harm's way, but I do feel like, you know, we joke about sending them to Palestine. No, I think maybe they need to go. I think you need to see firsthand accounts. I think you need to smell what decomposing flesh smells like. I think you need to see what happens when someone is... like being tortured or what it looks like when there's that kind of destabilization. You know, I think for some people it's really easy to get caught up in the theater of it on social media. Yep. And I talked about us becoming desensitized because of movies and things like that. Nowadays, like I could be like looking at someone painting a picture and then someone making a latte and the next minute there's like a dead child in Gaza. And then the next minute it's like a cat. And then the next minute it's like, you know, some funny skit. Yep. Like it just pops up intermittently now. And I feel like I should have a stronger gut reaction. Yeah. But, you know, that's what social media's done. It's just desensitized us. And sorry, go.
It's about perspective and it's about having a frame of reference that actually is reflective of the human experience rather than only your individual experience. And this is where people end up getting so out of touch. We've talked about celebrities before. They've got someone else cooking, someone else doing their diaries, someone else doing everything, so they just spend all of their time on the thing that's most valuable. And that's all well and good. I don't begrudge that for the people that are successful enough to do that. But be aware that you're creating for yourself a very unrealistic frame of reference. And now the fact that the bin didn't get emptied and now it smells is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, because that's the worst thing that happens to you these days,
Yeah.
and you lose touch.
Yeah.
And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Before I'd even had kids, I'd already made the decision, and my wife and I are in agreement. And in fact, my oldest is now getting old enough that we're beginning to think about it. It's going to be 3-4 years from now. Taking them to places where they see some genuine underprivilege. And you've got to be careful how you do it. I'm not trying to traumatize my own kids and, all that sort of stuff. But, for example, the church that I go to has a lot to do with a South African orphanage.
Yep.
And, the kids are kept clean and fed, and it's a very good life for a kid that's been abandoned or lost their parents in a place like South Africa. Like, they do a wonderful job. But by Western standards, they're all piled into dorm rooms and eating out of pots, and they've got no computers. They got right. And for my son, and then in due course, my girls are younger, to be exposed to some of this, to completely change their frame of reference.
Yeah.
Right, out of the privileged Western upbringing that they have by default because they're in Australia. For me as a kid, we travelled when I was 7. We didn't see a lot of underprivilege, but I certainly saw a lot of other places in the world. And then as a teenager, I went to Papua New Guinea. I saw genuine underprivilege. I saw people, as a teenager as well. I spent a couple of weeks on a medical mission around around the Gulf country, Queensland and Northern Territory, going to remote Indigenous communities around there. And it reframes your sense of normal, and it gives you the ability to be grateful for the things that you used to take for granted. And that's such an important life skill. And this is why I don't wish harm on Greta either, but she needs a complete reframing of her frame of reference to learn to be grateful for things that right now she takes for granted.
I've shared this plenty of times. I grew up overseas and we traveled significantly when I was like little. Like, I remember sleeping between my parents' feet on planes, back when you were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
My parents took us to places like Dachau and Auschwitz when we were young. And I've talked, that's how I became, I say infatuated. I don't mean that in the wrong sense. I mean like just utterly obsessed with understanding Stalin and Hitler. Yeah. And that's where it sort of started. And I think, when I came to Australia, you got to think like this well-traveled kid who grew up in Japan settles into bloody Sunbury and is meant to just go to school as if, she's normal. I was never normal. And I don't think you can be when you've seen things. And, I'd see people talking about their Vegemite sandwich and I get picked on for having, like nice gourmet meals or whatever. And then, telling the story about being in the earthquake and I got sent to detention for lying.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff, right? And I think, the reason I bring this up is for a lot of Aussies, they're so sheltered. They see the clips as narrated by people who have an agenda.
Yeah.
Whether that's the media, the journalist, the person, the influencer talking about it. Everyone's biased. Everyone has some kind of agenda. Seeing it with your own eyes, and I've started talking, I no longer talk about Stalin because it's too far away. I now talk about the Khmer Rouge. The reason I talk about the Khmer Rouge is a lot of Aussies will go do that Southeast Asian trip.
Yeah.
They'll do, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam. Now, Vietnam War, Vietnam War Museum, you see the effects of napalm. And then, and what's it called? Napalm and what's the other one?
Agent Orange.
Agent Orange, yep. And then in Cambodia, you see the killing fields, you see the Khmer Rouge, you see Pol Pot, all that sort of S21. Those feel a little bit more realistic to Aussies because they kind of go there for their first overseas adventure.
Yeah, it's sort of a coming of age
adventure. And, the Cambodians will always try and persuade you to read First They Killed My Father. I read that book in a day. I couldn't put it down. It was like, but I'm already utterly fascinated by that stuff. I can't imagine what it's like if you're not someone that normally reads that stuff. I don't know. I can only see it from my point of view. And as I've said before, when you go to these places, there's a heaviness that you feel. And it's not, it's otherworldly heaviness. You feel the loss.
It'd be spiritual. You can't have that kind of evil and it doesn't leave a mark spiritually.
And I don't think I brought this up last week's podcast. I do want to pull up a photo of it. This is in the S21 prison compound. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, but maybe some people aren't. And again, the reason I bring this up is because Australians, until they see it with their own eyes, will never be able to fathom the level of cruelty of humans. So I've just found the image. Let's scroll down. Okay, so I want to show you this. And before I show you, I'm going to tell you the story. So the Khmer Rouge, feel free to correct me if I get it wrong, they came after the intellectuals and the academics. They wanted to install communism in Cambodia in the 70s. And so Pol Pot and his rebels infiltrated and started seizing and killing people, like just genuine genocide, just like that's it. No questions asked, just murder. And as I said, they came after the intellectuals, the academic, and the people in power, the politicians. They put them in camps, they tortured them, and they tortured them to try and find any people who might have been hiding that they needed to kill to eradicate any kind of resistance.
Yeah.
And what they used to do is grab any infant, and I'm sorry, this is graphic, but you need to hear it. They would grab an infant child by its legs and swing that child at a tree to murder it. That is what they did. And they did that in front of the parents. They did that as a way of torturing and also, of course, disposing of these children they didn't want.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you this tree. And this is important because you can see it. It's there as a monument. This is important. This really happened. This happened in some of your lifetimes. That is the tree. Now, you cannot walk past that and not feel something. You look at that and they have photos of it. They show you what it looks like. And I don't mean just the tree. I mean of the infant being hit amongst that tree. Imagine every single one of you who has a child right now. Imagine what it felt like when you held your child for the first time after it took its first breath. Now imagine someone grabbing that child from your hands and swinging it by its legs, killing it on that tree. That is communism. That is what these people are trying to gaslight you to believe is a proper way of thinking that we need to embrace as Westerners. That is communism.
People try and pass that off as, that wasn't real communism. No. Go back to the original writings and particularly in the Stalinist expression of it. They literally believed they could kill their way to paradise.
Yes.
And if we don't have paradise yet, it's because there's more people that we need to kill. That was literally part of their philosophy. But also on that tree, one of the things that really struck me about Venezuela, and it's a different thing, but it's the same thing, how incredibly normal it looked when you ignored some of what was happening around you. And in a tree like that, in a place like that, you could walk past a tree like that. And if you didn't feel anything about the area or the history, you didn't know anything about that, you'd walk past and go, that's a weird tree. I wonder why there's all the little carabiners on there. And the normalcy of evil, the banality of evil, I think it was referred to as, someone in the comments helped me out with whoever wrote that book, the banality of evil. It is banal. It is boring.
Yeah.
It is shockingly normal. And we are all a lot closer to both being that person who is evil, but also a lot closer to being the victim of that person than what we realize. And that's why people like me get on our feet and we protest when we see the beginnings of heading towards anything like that, because the journey there is much shorter than you think.
This is why I get really worked up talking about communism, because your Abby Chatfields, your Purple Pingers, they talk about it from a moralistic and ideological standpoint.
Yeah.
It sounds better when we all get a little bit of something. But as we know, humans are corruptible and, ultimate power ultimately corrupts. That is what communism actually is. You can gaslight me as much as you want, but until you have stood there and fathomed with your own mind, your own conscience, and thought, how would I feel if someone snatched my newborn child and smashed it against a tree? I'm sorry, I cannot take you seriously.
But it fundamentally contradicts itself, because what something like communism says is people can't be trusted with power. We have to centralize power into what? Well, into a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So if people can't be trusted with power, so we need to give power to a bunch of people, but people can't be trusted with power. So we need to give power to a bunch of people, but people can't be trusted with power. Like, this is around and around you go. It is an inherently nonsensical worldview. And this is not just communism, this is any form of centralization of power. Either you believe that people can be trusted with power and therefore we don't need to centralize power, or you believe that people can't be trusted with power, in which case we cannot afford to centralize power. Either way, the centralization of power cannot be the answer.
So the reason I brought up communism is because that's what Greta wants. Greta wants us to embrace a socialism, which is default communism. I know everyone tries to argue they're different.
They try and parse the differences.
They're not different. It's like one, what do you call it? It's one step away. It's on the same staircase.
They're blood brothers, and along with fascism. Fascism, communism, socialism is a partway step, and if you go nationalistic, you end up in fascism. So national socialism is fascism, international socialism is communism. Essentially, the difference is communism says that the government should own and control the means of production, whereas fascism only says that it should control the means of production, doesn't have to own it. That's the only distinction between those two. They are both absolute forms of tyranny. And will never be anything other than that. There is no right way to do it.
No. I'm going to play you this clip of Greta because I want to point out, we could sit here and talk about the IDF and Palestine and Gaza, but what I find really interesting is you've got to poke holes in these people's stories.
Sure.
Now, Greta, of course, has told us she was kidnapped. It was dehumanizing. She had no access to her phones.
Oh, terrible.
It was terrible. But unfortunately for Greta, they had a security camera on that boat and we have footage and so we can see exactly what happened. But firstly, I want to play you Greta's clip. So for those of you who may have missed it, I'm going to turn around and play you this.
I apologise in advance for subjecting you all to Greta.
Oh, it's insufferable, this little twat.
We were illegally attacked and kidnapped by Israel and taken against our will to Israel, where we were detained, and then some of us deported, some are still there. There are very big uncertainties because it was quite chaotic and uncertain, so I don't really know what's going on. I haven't had a phone for many days. And
What were the conditions for you over the last few hours?
They were absolutely nothing compared to what people are going through in Palestine, especially Gaza right now. And
That's a workshop line.
Another international a violation of international, countless of such, especially towards Palestinians, that Israel are committing by blocking and preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. That is illegal.
How did the Israelis treat you? We saw them giving out sandwiches on their social media. How did
Yeah, they probably have posted lots of PR stunt videos. As I said, I have not seen anything, but they did
You're only
illegal
there
act
in
by
person.
kidnapping us on international waters and against our will, bringing us to Israel, keeping us in the bottom of the boat, not letting us getting out, and so on. But that is not the real story here. The real story is that there is a genocide going on in Gaza and a systematic starvation following the siege and blockade now, which is...
Okay, that's enough, Greta.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, guys. I do apologise. I feel like I torture you in this podcast at times. Sorry,
You do
I
a little
apologise.
bit. But how workshopped was that line? How smooth? Like, she's grown up around PR. She's been doing PR all her life. She probably doesn't need a PR minder to tell her how to massage and how to kind of manipulate these things anymore. It's second nature to her. But gosh, what attention-seeking little stunt. The phrasing, it's as bad as the chemical weapons thing I was talking about earlier with the tear gas. Kidnapped. No, you were detained at sea because you were trying to run a military blockade because two people are having a war, a very asymmetrical war, absolutely, but a war nevertheless. A naval blockade during times of war is completely normal, and if you try and run that blockade, you should be thankful you didn't get shot and sunk.
I just want to point out the incredible selfishness of this, though. I don't think this gets talked about enough. Like, there are people who go, oh, she's a hero. What? How is she a hero? She's someone who has decided to adopt Palestine and Gaza as her next grift. And that's what it is. It's a grift. All of this is about social media currency. I'm sorry. And what she has done is organize like a flotilla where they were constantly spamming social media with updates and everything was hyperbolic. Oh, there's a drone in the sky, send the alert, raise the alarms, tell everyone. So hang on a minute, you've got 12 people floating on this boat, cruising the Mediterranean, trying to get to Gaza. And then all of a sudden you want the Swedish government, you want the world, Amnesty International, Red Cross, whoever, to be alerted to you 12 people floating on the Mediterranean because you're more important than anyone right now. So what you did is actually concentrate all those resources onto yourself because you're more important and everyone needs to focus on you because unfortunately at the end of the day all that matters is Greta Thunberg, not actual Gazans. What you've done is take attention away from it because it's all about Greta and what Greta's doing and what Greta's eating and where's Greta right now. All of this does is, again, dilute the actual problem that's at issue here. And then the best part about this, I haven't had a phone for days. Let me just point you over to this clip as you eat your banana. Hang on. Wait. I've got to do the thing.
I just love it when she gets her head of steam up because I can just sit here and literally eat my banana. And
Yeah.
Just let you carry the whole podcast.
All right, you ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the security footage on their boat. Notice how they've all got their phones? Sorry, I'm going to narrate
she
this.
had a phone because she was posting on social media.
Well, I was going to say, we're going to narrate this. So we've just watched Greta say that she hasn't had access to her phone for days. Mm-hmm. This is the IDF coming to jump on their boat.
And she was in custody for a few hours, right?
And she was in custody for hours.
So if she hasn't had her phone for days, how did she think that was going to play?
This is the power of social media. So because this is where they do themselves in, because they have to televise everything.
Always the lie that gets you.
Everything's got to be done. So they've installed these security cameras, obviously, because they want to capture.
Would you like a banana peel?
No, I would not.
Oh, okay.
Can I just be serious?
Oh, sorry.
Bloody hell.
But you're carrying the podcast. Hey, I'm recharging. We're only halfway
You're
through.
behaving like the monkey you are.
We're only 2.5 hours into a 5-hour podcast. So I've got to keep up my energy.
I actually really do need to wrap up soon because my bladder might not be able to hold the rest of it. Unless we can do the Joe Rogan and just be like, sorry guys, we're going to...
Yeah, we're going to just...
But... This is how you can dissect this in real time. So what purpose does she gain? Like, what purpose is there of her lying? What did she have to gain by lying and saying she hasn't had access to her phone? That's how you poke holes in these people. All of this is about social media clout. Greta doesn't actually care. She might try and convince you she cares. She doesn't care. What she cares about is her name is all over the global headlines. She has all the attention on her, and that creates her as an influencer. I'm not saying she's going to start selling you skincare. What I'm saying is she is able to grab attention. Now, people are lauding her as some kind of hero. Watch this clip. This is Greta. How dare you, climate activists, with about 12 people on this boat and also a laptop, it looks like, about to chuck all of their electronic devices into the Mediterranean. I'm sorry, what a heinous environmental crime by someone who claims to care so much about the climate while she's on a diesel generator powered boat, while she has the IDF Navy vessels coming after her with their diesel powered boats, and then she's then deported on a aircraft with its jet fuel. I'm sorry, what part of this is about climate change right now? None of it. She is so disingenuous. Everything Greta does is staged and it's hypocritical.
Can you stop beating around the bush and just tell me what you really think?
No.
I'm so sick of you just dancing around the edges.
Oh, it had to come out. All right, we need to watch this.
Ditch the phones.
Ditch the phones.
Phones in the water, please.
Oh, sorry, that's not me. That's them.
That's on the video. Why? Why phones in the water? Like, what are they afraid of the IDF getting? All of their communications. I mean, the only thing... Can we pause? The only reason that I can think of, off the top of my head, I haven't had a moment to think this through, but the only reason I can think of off the top of my head why they would need to get rid of their phones, laptops, and other electronic devices is if they're afraid the IDF are going to get whatever is on those devices.
Of course.
So whatever is on those devices is some way bad for them or good for the Israelis.
Well,
Can I suggest that probably on those devices is communication with people inside of Gaza or people who are actually actively working and fighting against Israel?
Or they're puppet masters, like,
Yeah,
you know, the
yeah,
people
yeah,
who
yeah.
are behind all this, the
Yeah.
people who are funding
Yeah.
it. You know, how does Greta make her money, by the way?
Well, yeah. If this was genuinely a bunch of good-hearted people who had gone and done this of their own initiative in the hope of getting through to this humanitarian crisis, blah, 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 there would be nothing on their phones to hide.
I noticed that old mate over here still got his camera out, though, because, you know, content.
Oh, yeah, content creation, absolutely.
You guys can go watch the rest of this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but basically you see them, whereas this guy over here, I think it's this one, or, yeah, he is chucking all the devices behind. Yeah, so he grabs them, and, yeah, he's just chucking them out, the flotilla.
Yep.
But, yeah, you feel free to go watch it. But this is the IDF vessel here. This is the Navy coming in to intercept them. And, you know, they've got their hands up. Oh, you know, don't shoot.
I mean, obviously the fish in that region have just had a lovely supplement of lithium and cobalt.
But notice how the media doesn't talk about this. The media's not going to pick this. Hang on a minute. We've got literal footage of you just throwing garbage in the Mediterranean full of, like, toxic metals, but that's okay. But this comes down to, what did you say before? You used a term about all these conflating ideological viewpoints that are all competing with each other at the moment. So she's climate activist, ranking.
Yeah.
But now it's Gaza. So it's like, well, hang on,
Which one trumps what?
You just littered and you just put toxic chemicals into the Mediterranean, but also Gaza.
Okay, so let me throw another term at you. This is virtuous corruption.
Virtuous corruption.
So if you or I threw a chip packet into the Mediterranean, we would be evil because we're hurting the environment.
Correct.
But you don't understand. I had to do that in order to protect my contacts in Gaza. Right. So I'm so virtuous because I'm fighting the war here.
So it excuses bad behaviour.
Correct. Virtuous corruption. And this is actually a massive problem right across the environmental movement, as well as law enforcement, government, everything else. You don't understand how amazing and virtuous I am and the cause that I am working on, which excuses why I need to have a private jet. I mean, Mike Cannon-Brookes classic. That's virtuous corruption. Yeah. I'm allowed to do the thing that I would never allow you to do. It would be corrupt and wrong and evil if you did it, but I'm allowed to do it because I'm working on something so much more noble.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't understand.
Well, that's like the Bernie Sanders saying that he needs to fly private because, he needs to be able to get around to 13 different cities in 30 days.
That's right.
So as obviously he's not going to fly United because he's not a pleb. No. But again, I could talk about this for hours. I mean, I just realized that Sky News has now asked the carbon footprint thing. I'm glad they get all their content from X. But, the thing about Greta, right, she's sitting here championing these causes that she knows nothing about. Greta is spoon-fed things. Everything she does is talk in like little headline clips. And when I think about things, I've given you guys scenarios of the people I see on my social media who are good people, well-meaning people, just average Joe citizens. And the amount of them who share the Greta stuff. Oh my God, Greta's been kidnapped. Yeah. And I don't say anything. It's not my place. Unless they ask me a question, I'm not going to just slide into the DMs and, give them something. But that's who I'm talking to at times. I'm like, oh, stop falling for it. This is blatant propaganda and you fall for it. Hook, line and sinker every time. It just took me a minute to dissect this and poke the holes in it. And we were kidnapped, we were detained. Well, we've got your own footage, babe. We've got your own footage of you literally about to be intercepted by the IDF. What part of this looks atrocious and dehumanizing? Oh, that's what she said. It was dehumanizing because we didn't get a chance to say goodbye.
A different way to view the exact same thing is that they recklessly endangered the lives of other seafarers because they forced those seafarers to have to do an intercept at sea, which is an inherently dangerous thing. Now, that looks like it was pretty calm at the time, but they didn't know in advance that was going to be the case. They could have been putting people's lives at risk in heavy seas. They've consumed resources to maintain a blockade in order to be able to carry out what is a very, very difficult operation where actually Israel are bending over backwards to try and not allow people to be dying of starvation, and Hamas appear to be doing everything they can to try and bring as much misery as possible. And yes, you can come at me in the comments. But that's a fact of what's happening right now. The people being most terrorized by Hamas are the people of Palestine. And she wants to be a sympathizer and she wants to draw attention to their cause by drawing attention to herself. I have no sympathy. She's reckless. She's irresponsible. She's endangering other people. But again, in my opinion, just like Trump getting in and rescuing Newsom by getting involved and sending out the National Guard, no, let these people fail on their own. Let her in. And sure, people say, oh, but then there'll be other boats. Okay, so stop the other boats. Let the high-profile person in.
Just let her in.
Let the little girl in.
Let
her absolutely shit herself when she's faced with the reality of getting the thing that she said she wanted. And watch that whole narrative implode. In real time.
I just want to read this comment here. She's not only not evil, she is also 100% right. She was kidnapped, and while you hurl personal attacks and try and twist the narrative, she's out there tirelessly, fearlessly calling out injustice. Whether it's a climate collapse or simply a complicity in war crimes, she shows up where she needs to. I assume that's what it says. Where her conscience demands it. Sorry, it got better.
She's basically Batman. We need a Greta light
we do.
onto the clouds.
We do. Yeah. I mean, she's a 22-year-old woman, not a child. I'm sorry, 22, you're a child.
Well, and also, she behaves like a child. She's not only a child, she's a petulant child.
Isn't she? And this is the other thing too. Again, I'm not waging into the whole Israel and Palestine thing, and this might offend you guys when I say this. I genuinely don't care. It's not because I don't care that people are dying. No, that's not what I'm saying. Is this conflict is millennia old. It will never be solved. There will never be a satiation of bloodthirst from this. They don't want it solved. You need to understand that. They do not want a resolution. The Israel people might say they do. They don't. This war has been going for millennia. It will continue to go. And this doesn't concern me. It really doesn't. I don't know why the Western world is captured by these crises in the Middle East. Let them. Let them fight it out. Let them do it. Like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get like on my high horse and start and like holding these people up, because this doesn't help us in any way. We have so many of our own problems.
That's the thing. The opportunity cost of all of the time and effort being spent on something that is halfway around the world means that, for example, have a look at Myanmar and what's happening with the Rohingya people over there. Have a look at South Africa. Have a look at other parts of Africa. Have a look at many, many different situations far closer to home that are completely missed.
Yeah.
You know, have a look at the situation in Kurdistan. Have a look at this. Like, there are so many other conflicts that we could look at and say, oh, let's bleed for that one, and yet somehow it's always this.
No, it's selective activism, isn't it? It's like, oh, this is a good one to attach itself to. But
now I think we've successfully pissed everybody off on both sides. Well done.
That's what we do.
Done.
We are the Oddcast.
Well done us.
But, people don't want to hear that. But that is the truth. I only have a finite amount of time and consideration and empathy. And, you might believe you have a endless loop. You don't.
No.
At the end of the day, I care about helping those that I can have an impact on. Sitting here getting into like social media fights with people is a waste of everyone's time.
And opportunity cost is a real cost.
Yeah.
And we don't count it often enough.
Anyway, I feel like we've done all our topics now.
Ooh.
So now, who's that good looking girl? It's me. We get to read some good comments.
Thank you for clarifying. I was wondering.
Well, for those who are listening to us.
Well, okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Right,
you just need to know there was a very attractive woman on the screen.
It wasn't me.
No, it could be. Wear a dress, you might look better than me. I can start calling you Lily. This is our comment feed. And I'm bringing this up because I don't want you to think I've made this up, but I want you to read this to our dear viewers.
How am I going to... There aren't a pair of glasses powerful enough
Hang
for me
on.
to see that.
Why can't I pull the whole thing?
Well, okay, hang on. I'll tell you what. Let's use technology to solve a technology problem. This is like serious boomerism going on here. I'm going to use my phone's Zoom.
Oh, I could have just read it to you, I guess, or just passed you the screen.
I can't get that.
Here
All right, passing me the screen. All right.
Read this out.
I enjoy being the fly on the wall. Love the new podcast. Charlie changed my... Charlie? We're going to Candy Mountain. Charlie! Carly changed my life. Seriously. I've followed for years watching artistry of her photography. I took her online course, left my narcissistic husband after COVID, started a completely new business, lost 140 pounds. That's a whole person. And am completely self-sustainable. Anyone can change their direction, set your values, and strive to. That is an amazing turnaround. Well done to Annie Springman. Yeah. Well done, Annie. That's genuinely impressive.
How amazing. Like, lost 140 kilos. Pounds. Changed her life.
Yeah, that's
would be a lot.
Again.
I love seeing someone's written, sounds like a paid comment, lol. I did not.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Well done, Annie. Well done.
I think the course she's referring to is my values workshop that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did this, like, it's a tangent as well, but, like, I did a values workshop because I speak about values all the time and people are like, well, how did you get those values? I'm like, what do you mean? I hadn't considered that people didn't have their own. So I'd be happy to do that again, but maybe we can do a values thing here. But someone else wrote, go by rail. Carly, back when I was in books, so I'm messing in publishing, the rule of thumb in the printing industry was that the RRP of a book is 7 times the cost price to print it. So if your book costs $30 to print, it should be retailing at $210. That's a lot of money.
Which, thankfully, you'd no longer cost $30 to print.
No, I've got to get that up on Amazon today. I've got to finish that. I wanted to address this. Just, I feel like people don't realise this. So Ashley Emor has written, I wrote what I thought was a really good comment last week, but alas, when I checked back later, it was not there. I'm too busy to get creative enough to write another this week. Thank you again for a great video. So I've seen this a lot in your comment threads. People going, oh, my comments are being deleted.
You're deleting my comments.
YouTube's deleting us again.
Oh, no. So I love it when they say that, but I love it even more when they tell me that it's me.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've got the time to sit there going through the comments like, do I like that one or not?
Delete. Who could be bothered?
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, I'm going to give you like a little skill in YouTube, right? So we're going to scroll up here. We're going to do it together on screen.
Yeah. Okay. Make sure you're on the left.
On the left. Sorry, I keep forgetting I need to. All right.
Yeah.
See this here, how it says sort comments? If we click this, It says top comments or newest first. It doesn't say all comments because the way YouTube works is that it's algorithm based. So if there is a comment that's getting a lot of traction, it will put that at the top. Or if you want to see who has left the most recent comment, that's how you can sort it. Now, if you're not seeing your comment, it's because YouTube has deemed it either insufficient or unimportant, or it's just dropped to the bottom. So no one's deleting your comments, guys. You just need to resort your comments.
So newest first, I believe, is meant to be everything. I believe that is meant to show every comment.
And it shows it chronologically.
It shows it from the most recent to the oldest.
And top comments is those that have been engaged
the
with
ones
the
that
most.
are selected. And yes, top comments will, a comment that's early and gets a bit of engagement early will end up being the top comment, and more, comments that come later on will drop off that feed entirely. It's just unfortunately how it works. But YouTube, ultimately, the agenda of YouTube is to keep you on YouTube.
100%.
So they are going to put the most interesting videos into your suggested videos. They're going to put the most interesting comments at the top of the comments section. They are going to do everything they can to simply keep you in there. So my suggestion, if you find that your comments are always getting deleted, write better comments.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I just want to point that out because when people get all up in arms and get their knickers in a twist because censorship, guys, trust me, no offense, you're not that important.
You're not that special.
No, you're not that important.
Yep.
But let's read a couple more good comments. We got told off for putting it up too late, and I was like, hang on a minute, we're early.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, but it's going up at night. I'm like, yes, on Wednesday. It normally goes up on
Wednesday, not
Thursday.
on Thursday. That's right.
I can't win.
Be nice to Carl. She's working really hard. She's working harder than I am at
bloody
this.
trying. What else we got here? You only had a 2 for the Oddcast sign, and you're correct. So just so you know, constant improvements over here. I went and bought another sign just so I could get more numbers.
Wow.
So now
the level of commitment from you is absolutely off the charts.
Well, there's
I'm
actually
so impressed.
There's a problem though, because these are the new ones and the other ones are down there. They're actually a little bit different.
Oh, no.
So the original font is condensed and this is a normal font.
Okay. Can I share with you a different kind of first world problem also related to these?
Yeah.
I didn't realize when I jammed all my pieces together on my sign to put good people break bad laws in there that like the O isn't precisely centered. And so if you have one of them upside down, like I didn't realize that there was such a thing as an upside down for an O. And there's another letter as well that I've got upside down apparently. Or a D, because you can flip it upside down, but then if you flip it front to back, it still looks like it's a D the right way around. But so I have someone in my comments regularly saying, fix your damn sign, because their OCD
just
can't
don't do it to
handle
annoy them.
the fact that a few of the letters are like offset by a couple of millimeters. And look, they're not wrong. I hadn't realized it. And then I stopped and I looked at the sign and I went, oh yeah, okay, I get that now. But they're all jammed in together because you've got them all side by side. I had too many letters for that. So see how there's a plastic space in between the clear space? I overlapped the pieces of plastic and jammed them in against each other to get the printing to be closer. And I ain't undoing that for the sake of one commenter's OCD. But yes, you can't keep anyone happy. And by the way, commenter, if you're watching this, I love you, but that sign's not getting fixed. Sorry.
But does this bother you? You can see it very clearly here. One's a condensed font, one's not, and one's taller than that. One's not.
So now that you've showed it to me, yes, that will actually the height would bother me. Yeah. The difference in font wouldn't, but the height would. 42. Yeah. The meaning of life.
Yeah, that's going to bother us. But anyway, so now I need to go and buy another sign. So we're going to have 3 signs, so they have 2 of the same. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, I do make these improvements. And if you have super chatted in this, by the way, we have got a few super chats.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm going to be transparent. I thought I would do this, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's the early days. When we're making millions, I will never tell you.
So when she falls silent, that's when you know.
Okay, so I'm hoping you guys can see this. This is...
Just switch to it so it's not the comments thing anymore. Just switch to your camera.
Yeah, hang on.
If you just go like that.
Oh, yeah, hang on. Can you see that?
No.
It's going to be backwards.
Still can't see it.
It's going to be...
Okay, so in the top there, it says that we have made, drumroll please, $144.34.
Since we've been monetized.
Woo!
Amazing. But if we break this down, so we go into analytics, revenue. So you know I'm not making this up. I'm literally in the app and I'm clicking over to it. So if we go across here and we see all our revenue since we got monetized, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, thereabouts. We're up to 1,400 subscribers. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
The reason I want to share this with you guys is because I like being transparent and I love watching things grow. I love documenting it.
Yeah.
So you know, those of you who started the very first episode, you remember how sketchy it was?
That's why I don't clean the mold off my shower. I love watching things grow.
You're weird. So I just want to remind you this because when we were like multi-millionaires, everyone's like, you've changed. I'll be like, no, we weren't. You know, look at us. Look at where we started. Anyway, so of that 144, if I click on that, then you can see where the revenue comes from. So half of it is from, so $82.47, if I can.
We'll believe you.
Yeah. Oh, it changed to you. How did it do that?
Well, if I talk, hang on.
Anyway.
Please hold. Your call is important to us.
So you can see $82.47 came from watch time, so people watching.
Yep.
And then supers is when you guys right now who are watching this on the premiere write a comment.
Nice.
And that's like leaving us a tip.
Sorry.
Super chat.
Okay, but it's like not like every comment. They have to like deliberately.
It has
go,
to be
hey,
during the preview, the premiere.
During this premiere. Okay, so what time are you premiering normally then, so people can set their calendars?
It goes 7 o'clock on Wednesdays.
On a Wednesday night, you go live and people can super chat.
Yes, and I am there watching it with G, and I'm commenting in the comments.
I'm at home having dinner with my kids.
You are nowhere to be seen.
Driven for 4 hours to get home.
So last week we got a few super chats.
Nice,
we got,
thank you everyone.
2 marks, and for the life of me, I don't know who the other person was, but there's 3 of you, and we made. I don't actually remember how much you guys super chatted, but we get the revenue we get from them was $31.84.
Nice. Well, thank you. And what were their comments?
I can't remember.
Well, that's the point of a super chat.
No, they were. I think they were more just supers, not super chats.
Okay.
Or there was, love the podcast, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
It's hard because you can't save the chats.
This really annoys me about YouTube. YouTube, fix this.
Yeah, you can't
Comments
save the supers.
made during a live need to stay there once it gets turned into a video.
And I feel really bad because like I'm watching it, talking to G and trying to remember your super chats. And so that brings us to this. We are going to add an extra episode of the Oddcast per week.
Not more work.
Yes, well.
That's fine. You do all the work anyway.
So we wanted to add a segment where you guys can, well, I need to look, where you guys can talk to us live.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a live version of the Oddcast Tuesdays.
Whoa. Okay, so if it's going to be Tuesdays, I've got to rearrange my schedule at home. So we're going to have to talk about this off air. So this is just a tease, everybody. It's
we
coming.
Actually don't know.
We don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do something.
We're going to do a live show.
At some point in time.
And so the live show, the whole purpose of it is so that you guys can interact with us.
We can actually, because there's a lot of, I know that from reading comments and also on my own channel and stuff, people, you've got a lot of questions and things you want to hear about, or you mentioned something in passing and then we move on.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, whoa, hold up. Let's go back to that and explore that a little bit more. And I'd love to be able to do that, but I don't know which things to unpack.
And so what my thoughts were, and you can let me know, is that our live show, we would kind of do what we did today, but with, whatever's currently trending for the day.
Yeah.
And that will obviously set us off on tangents. And then people in the comments will say things and then we can discuss that or bring it up or discuss it.
Yep.
And then when we do this podcast, that's when we do our deep dive super tangents.
That's when we talk about what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that way you guys can, ask us questions. We can unpack things. We can have some discussions.
And you can all join me as I sing Tangent Time, Tangent Time, Tangent Time.
Do we have any music people who could do something with that?
You need a miracle worker, not just music people. You need a wizard.
Remember when Dan Andrews did the whole get on the beers and then
true.
Mashton Kutcher made the whole song?
Which I got to say, that was great.
It's fantastic.
Then the dude put that to the light show in his house.
Yeah.
Okay, genuinely, that moment was pretty epic.
Yeah,
I would give him
I love the internet for that. So,
Yeah.
so surely someone somewhere can do something with Tangent Time. It's not me. I'm not adding music producer to my thing. But this has actually become our longest podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because normally I cut
I'm surprised.
This is 2:55.
Yeah.
Normally I cut the very beginning if it's too long.
What?
Yeah.
But that's my best work.
I know. Sorry.
Wow.
The truth comes out.
Some people are just ungrateful, aren't they?
Go fuck yourself.
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, well said, but wow.
To be fair, you did tell me to start using it.
Yeah, all right. Just not on me. Present company excluded. Come on. Do I got to tell you all the rules? Come on.
No, there are no. The rules are there are no rules.
There are no rules. There is no spoon.
I think we've touched on everything. If I look at my show notes.
It's all right. We don't need to drag it out. Let's stop before the 3 hour mark so we know if we ever hit the 3 hour mark, it's a new record.
That was it. We're done it.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Follow Carly via
Carl's J Soda.
Follow me via Topher Field. Follow the
Oddcast HQ.
Almost in unison. Because, hey, more is better. We've got 1,400, but more is better.
And please, please, please share the show.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really important.
And are we going to see T-shirt designs this week?
Yes, you will see them on next week's episode.
Ooh, next week's episode. So tune in. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You have the little bell icon so you get notified so that you watch it next week because you want to see the designs.
And it premieres every Wednesday at 7 p.m. pending some kind of meltdown with my...
Excellent. Well, I'll see how I go driving home today and with kids and all the rest of it, but I might even join in the chats live tonight.
Yeah, just jump on. Just stir people up.
Yeah. I mean, it is a 4 hour drive home, so I'm not making any promises.
Yes. Anyway.
But I'll try.
You said let's not go over 3 hours, so
let's get out. Get out.
Bail
out. Bail out. Guys. Everybody out. Bye.
Bye. Oh, I can't stop it on this.
Oh.
That's the. Oh no, hang on. If I